And we're live.
I'm guessing you didn't
We are
get a
live.
new mic.
Happened?
I'm guessing you didn't get a new mic then.
Damn the shade.
No.
I'm not using the broken one. This is just like my laptop.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gotcha. But you sound like it's okay. Like we can make up what you're saying. Like it's not a bad quality.
All right. Let's see downloads.
By the way, viewers, I apologize for the false advertisement right now playing. I have the Pokemon footage playing. Uh, this is like the rear view mirror on your car. Things may be closer than they look. The things may run poorer than they look right now. Okay, whenever you play the game.
Yeah, don't worry. that's a that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, things.
God, why can't I open this thing? Hold on, give me a second. I'm trying to make sure I get
What
So y'all
is
might have to
what?
keep talking for a second because like whenever I go to a new window, like you won't be able to hear me. So I'm gonna be on the YouTube channel, like entering in all the title and the tags and all that stuff
Yeah,
really
you're good.
quickly. So you okay? Cool.
Uh, it's interesting. I'm looking at this Pokemon footage right now, and there was a slight instance where it looked like someone edited it to like cut out part of the battle. I don't know if that was to cut out the lag or whatever, but it looked like it was edited. Interesting.
I mean, probably. We didn't even know how online worked in this game until everyone started playing it, right?
I think so because they explained that it was gonna have co-op, but they didn't really go into detail of how it'll go.
Yeah, I was hyped for that. I was like, "Oh, great! I get to play with Sammy, and I get to play with my friend from work too. Like, that's dope."
Your entire friend group, your friend from work, and Sammy.
I mean, you only need three. Well, you're trying to say I don't have any friends? That's
Uh,
yeah,
you loser. No, it's max 4 people, I think.
yeah. I was
Uh,
gonna say, well, what were you insinuating there?
apparently,
Well, you
apparently,
little bitch,
apparently,
you little bitch.
apparently, this game. This is the first time that you're
I mean,
able.
you too, obviously. You can join up too,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah. No, I bought the game. This is the
yeah, you
first
did.
time you can see shinies in the overworld.
Yeah, I'll see your shiny in the old world.
Hey
You know what I'm
yo,
saying?
Sheesh.
Whoop de fucking do.
Whoopie doo.
I thought you was going away. What happened? I thought you were gonna come back in like five
I
minutes.
had to
Huh?
I had to click back once I heard Walt talking about this new Pokemon game has shinies. Whoop de fucking do.
Yeah, I know. No, I was saying that people, they're very adamant about defending this game earlier, but we'll go into that. Right now, we're just looking at some footage of 30 FPS. Um, Seeing the beautiful first party Pokemon. Uh, as you can see, the trainer is running. By the way, how's the audio sounding?
We're good. Yeah, we're good. I was listening back right now, just listening, still chime in with the whoop de fucking do.
Whoop de fucking do.
I'm gonna send it out right
Ah,
now.
Mr. Meeseeks, look at
Look
me.
at me.
Whoop de doo. Oh
That's probably
man,
one of the best. It's just a little jumping off top. That's probably one of the best multiverses lines from when you're playing as Rick.
Lamau.
When you bring out Mr. Meeseeks, like, oh, Mr. Meeseeks, look at me. And then the other is his death animation where you hit him up and he gets blasted out of the stage and he's like, oh, shit. And he actually doesn't say the word, but it's
That's
so
nice.
good what they did with that.
That's funny.
All right, add Jeff Keighley's Game Awards nominees, Pokemon reviews,
Jeff
and God of War
Keighley,
Ragnarok. Jeff Keighley, he's definitely gonna tune in. So I
he's
just
in
wanted to
gamer
check.
prison, gamer
He's in
jail.
gamer prison.
What's the
All right.
called in the Callisto Black Iron prison? The one in Callisto.
Yeah, I haven't watched any trailers.
I just know that
So I'm really
from
excited.
the pieces that I've written, where like I know about the biophages and whatever, but I haven't seen the latest. By the way, I've never seen this Pokemon trainer. What the hell? That's a lot of colors.
Yeah, I know that and that Karen Fukuhara is in it. That's all.
Yeah, she is. I'm excited for that. She's like a second like a secondary character, I think. So she's pretty important.
Oh, good. Yeah, I wasn't sure what her role would be, and I was hoping it would be more than just a cameo.
Yeah, I know. I think like she's like in the same jail like cell that you are or something. I don't know. I don't know about the lore. I don't even know who you are. If you're like part of the company, if you're there on a mission. I'm
By
excited.
the way, they have a franchise, they want to build out, so so I'm down for it.
I'm
It
down
seems
for it.
good. The industry is needed for all these survival horrors, and it's great we're finally getting them. So,
Dude, we're getting so many, one after the other.
hell yeah, I'll take it.
I'll take all of them, please. One for the road, one for here. I'm also really excited for Alone in the Dark. That looks really good. Alan Wake 2, they're doing that. They're doing Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Dead Space, Callisto. Oh my god, so many. So many.
Love to see it.
You love to see the love for games, brother. Or whatever. Brother, behind you. You're on fire, brother. It'll pass.
So, yeah, we'll talk about all that too for sure. So, you good, brother?
Brother,
I think I'm good.
are you good, brother?
All right, you guys ready?
You ready
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
riddle? Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. Also keep in mind that there's like, I don't know, for whatever reason on my end, there's like a little like few seconds delay from like what I say and then I guess you guys hearing it. So like that explains why like in the last podcast there was like one time where like I thought Walt was talking and he wasn't, and then he was like, "Oh no, you go," and then I was like, "No, I thought you were saying something." So like I think that's probably gonna happen in this one again too. So just letting you guys know.
Oh no.
That was hilarious. You're like, no, you go.
No, you go.
No,
You go.
You go. Hold on. Okay, all right. I won't.
What?
Okay.
What?
Oh,
You
man.
good? You good, homie?
But all right, man. So yeah, let's start.
Let's start.
So welcome to the 83rd episode of the DualShock and Sense podcast. I'm your host, Soul, the connoisseur of anime waifus, joined by my two co-hosts here. We got Walt here. How you doing, man?
Salutations. I am Walt, the god of something. I don't know yet. I'm something. I don't know. There's wine. There's mischief. I don't something. Hello, guys. I can't think about anything else but God of War right now. But so continue, Macho, to introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah. Now I'll introduce myself. The host,
I
Walt.
was like, he did my job for me, I guess.
What's up, everybody? It's the King of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy fanatic. I'm excited to be back. A lot to talk about, and not just God of War stuff, but a couple other things too. It's a
Unfortunately,
very spicy week, wasn't it? So,
was it?
Yeah.
I actually don't know what what you're referring to. So
Oh, come on now. Come on.
I actually don't know.
Oh man.
Dude, it's a Game Awards, dog. That's-
I thought about Twitter, like the whole Twitter thing.
No, the
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
I mean, the Game Awards itself is just a spicy topic in general.
It sure
but,
is.
I mean, I'm sure that was the base of a lot of arguments this week. So we'll see.
For
We'll
sure.
get down to it though.
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha. But yeah, man, we have lots to get through. So without further ado, let's begin the podcast like we always do, talking about the games that we've been playing this past week. This is a weird one because like I know they're both way like ahead in Ragnarok than I am.
Wait,
I've barely played it this week, so I've just been like honestly not playing a lot of games in general lately. So I literally just made it to like the first Atreus playable section, and I haven't finished that mission. But like I got to talk to Jormungandr, and then I got to talk to Freya as well. But that's pretty much where I'm at. So I haven't put in a lot of time. But so I don't know how you guys like. Maybe let me know if this sounds good. After I leave, you guys just want to do like a full like you two talking about like your full thoughts of like where you guys are at, or how do you guys want to do this?
I don't know if we should talk about it now, because I finished the game. I don't want to I don't want to say shit because then something
I
will
mean,
slip.
well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm 35 hours in, so I was thinking like maybe we could save like our super in depth, full thoughts when we all actually beat the game in like a
Yeah.
spoiler cast or something.
And we'll do a big chunk of that, like all three of
Yeah.
us, and we can actually
I mean,
talk about the story beats and all that.
yeah, I can cover like my basis of like what I'm thinking about the game, but I'm not gonna like go into like great detail or tell stories or anything like that.
Yeah, same.
Sure. I mean, I mean, I don't really have much to add from last week. I'm still from what I played. Like, I'm still really enjoying the game. The combat is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving where the story is going. All that stuff. I really don't have much else to really add.
I
Well,
mean,
tell us a little bit about tell us. So now that you were actually talking about it, tell us a little bit
yeah.
about like your gameplay with Atreus because when I first jumped into the shoes, man, I was expecting to be kind of like a lull and not like how
Mm.
can you compare the gameplay of Kratos to jumping over to Atreus now? But dude, Atreus is hella fun to play as.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun figuring it out in real time on stream because it was like the once the shock and surprise of it all wore off, I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting bored of just like firing off arrow after arrow after arrow. But then there came a time where I was like, oh, you can do melee attacks as well. So it was really cool, combining, like launching an enemy up into the air and then jumping back and then hitting him with an arrow while that enemy is like still like juggled in the air. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool blending like those things together, and then learning how to like you can do like a dive dodge, like Atreus can like dive to the side and fire an arrow off at the same time, so it was cool mixing that in as well, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, once I actually figured out that there was a lot more to the combat than just firing off arrows, I had a lot more fun with it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
same here. Especially when you fill out his tree skills and everything, and you can add like combo finishers. And now that you actually have different combos to mess around with, it gets a lot of fun. Especially mixing in with like all of his like different armor and equipment stuff like that. But well, what did you think? Because I haven't heard your thoughts on gameplay with Atreus.
I think it only gets better. It only the more you unlock, the more you learn how to play him. Albeit he's not as diverse as Kratos. Kratos having both the blades and the Leviathan. Uh, Atreus feels very nimble. He feels very kinetic and very fast. And the arrow, I thought it'd feel a bit sluggish, but no, your transition from melee to long range to dodging to everything just feels so. The synergy is insane. And earlier, I was telling Macho Soul that it reminds me a lot of The Last of Us in the sense that you start off questioning like, I don't know if I want to play as Abby, and then I grow up to like playing as Abby more than I do Ellie. And here it's like, oh, I kind of want to play as Atreus more now. I like Kratos' whole arsenal, and he's
That's wild.
no, and
That's wild.
he feels insane. But then in that first mission, because I didn't have Kratos decked out, I was like, man, I wonder how much I want to kind of just play Atreus more for the next few hours. But then you unlock more stuff with Kratos, and then it's like, okay, now you can feel the stark difference. But initially, that was my first thought. I was like, oh man, just give me Atreus for the next few hours. And it didn't disappoint. But after a while, it's like, okay, there's only so much you can do with him compared to Kratos. So I didn't, at the end of it, I wasn't like, man, this should have been only an Atreus game. It's like, no, it makes sense that he had that time to play. So I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, like I really appreciate the pacing of each like Atreus section so far.
Careful.
Yeah, no. I think it's really cool the way they do everything. Like by the time you're ready to go back to Kratos, you're already there.
Yeah.
So
it never feels dragged out. It never feels like, man, I'm kind of tired. No, it feels just enough. He has just enough depth to him to justify the amount of time that you play as him. So I appreciate it. Can't wait for you to play more of it, Soul, because it's really fun. It's really great.
Yeah, I
definitely
agree.
a lot more to look forward to. So
And obviously, everyone is losing their shit, rightfully so, with Atreus animation of him trying to like punch through the chest like he's like his father.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
It's such a son thing. It's such a like just as a kid, sometimes you're not like you don't have it's like when you're in the cash register and like your mom is like, "Hey, I'm gonna go get something, okay? I'll be right back." And the cash register just goes faster and faster and faster. And you're like, "Oh man, mom's not here to pay." And it's like you have to figure out like what are you gonna do next, and you try to emulate in the future like things that you're like. It's so impressionable.
Impressionistic. Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked it. It really hit kind of like, oh man, I feel that. Sometimes you just want to do things like your parents when you're a kid and it just doesn't work out. You just and you're it shows just how resourceful he is. He just doesn't go, oh man, okay, I guess I can't do it. No, he goes for his bow and he breaks it. Because that's essentially how I felt. When I was playing as him, I was like, oh, I can only like fire arrows, but then oh wait, I can hit with my bow? Oh man. Why is this bow is really resistant? Why isn't it breaking? Oh wait, he's a god. Oh wait, this bow is like super enhanced or whatever. So
There were two cases of like that very thing of him, trying to like taking inspiration from his father, or like seeing what his dad does, and trying to
emulate.
mirror that. So obviously the chess thing, but then like I also noticed that every time you see Kratos and Atreus, when they have to like slide through like a crevice in a wall or whatever, if you notice, Kratos will always like stop at the side and let Atreus go in first, and then he follows. And then in this first section is Atreus. Atreus does the same thing with Sindri. He lets Sindri go in first, and then he follows. So I thought those two little things were very cute.
It is adorable. The way that he's just man. Kratos did a good job raising that kid. He's following the right man with the right things, not being that vengeful.
There's also, I don't know if you guys have noticed this. Maybe you guys have because you guys are a lot further. But have you noticed that the journal entries are actually written by Kratos and Mimir?
Yeah.
So in the first game, Atreus was the one who was like in charge of that. He was the one who wrote the journal entries. Because he was the one who knew how to read and write. Kratos did not know how to read and write. So I think it's a really cool little detail that like it shows how much time has passed in between 2018 and Ragnarok, where presumably Mimir and Atreus actually had to like sit down with Kratos and show him how to read and write. And I don't know, it's really cute seeing like both Mimir and Kratos like working together to like fill out these journal entries, and just seeing like Kratos' thoughts on these different things and stuff like that. I really appreciate little details like that.
It's cool how it's not like he's so I don't know. I mean, y'all as writers, when you write, you're not writing, depending on the type of writing, you're not writing your thoughts. You're kind of structuring it in a different manner, as argumentative or an essay or whatever the case may be. The way that Kratos writes, it's like he's telling someone about it, and he's not like trying to be fluffy or trying to be very elaborate. It's like literally Kratos being Kratos even through writing. So he's very abrupt. He has weird pauses. And same with when it's Atreus and he's writing entries. It's very, you can feel Atreus through the writing. Like he's very empathetic. He's very caring. He's very curious. And he talks a lot about how he feels. While Kratos is very analytical in his writing. So it's really cool how it contrasts the writing. And I like that. It feels very personable for the person, which is cool.
And again, like that's a detail that like the game didn't tell me. Like it didn't tell me that like, oh, Mimir and Atreus specifically, taught Kratos how to write. But like that's a logical conclusion that you can make based off of like, oh, Kratos is actually writing now, so he must have learned during the gap between these two games. So
yeah,
I love that the game doesn't have to explicitly tell you, but you can kind of like fill in those gaps for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
That's because it's telling you everything else. That's why when you're exploring.
Yeah,
but I love that detail too.
There was another instance of that where I think it might have been after the first Thor fight where Kratos was like saying something along the lines like I won't drop you again, Sindri, or something like that. And like it was a cool like little like I don't know, I guess like little throwaway line, but like that you can make a conclusion there that like, oh, okay, so Brock, Sindri, Kratos, Atreus, Mimir, they've all had like a lot of adventures after God of War 2018. Like they were still like doing stuff and hanging out together and stuff like that. So like to hear them, refer to like moments before we pick up or before we get to see them again in Ragnarok, I thought was a really cool thing to see that like, oh, that they were still hanging out and doing stuff together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they just the way that they react, like to Freya attacking them, how
Right.
they're
That's a good point.
they're very like, oh, is it her? It is.
Yeah.
And they just charge in. They're not thinking about, oh, we should do. No, they already have the plan, and it's just
Exactly.
run to the stave. We're not fighting her. She's our friend. She was our friend, and it's so. It's like Macho says. They tell you, most things or everything, but little stuff that's more. The things that they don't tell you are things that you don't talk about in real life either. Like in
It's the
like
stuff that really matters.
it's
right?
just exactly because it's world building in that sense. Like Kratos has that armor that gets messed up escaping Freya, but then you infer, oh, they've been out here a lot. Fimbulwinter has been around for a minute, so they've had the right attire for it. They've had to explore the lands with the new layout. There's raiders. They talk about the raiders. They talk about, they've settled here. They've never been here. So that means that it's something recent. So they really if you don't pay attention to the dialogue between sections and you only look at cutscenes, you're going to miss a lot. Because a lot of the story takes place between their banter or their back and forth dialogues during gameplay sections, which is nice. And if you take your time and wait, they'll talk more. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I love hearing the conversation. Like one of my favorite things about God of War Ragnarok is just it's kind of like my fascination with with other games like Kingdom Hearts games or with like even the MCU where like sometimes the exciting stuff is not just the action, it's just hearing people talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Just really kind of banter going back and forth, and that's what I really love about Ragnarok and the how strong its writing and performances are. That you feel like you're there, and one of the best things that like really attests to that too is the one shot camera that I absolutely love to no end. Like that was one of the things I didn't shut up about with the first game. I'm gonna do the same thing with this one because I every time I'm like in like a really cool sequence or a fun cinematic one or even just like a conversation between characters and whatever they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just invested into it 100%.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate games that humanize but don't make you sympathize with the villain. Like with the first scene where you talk with Odin and Thor. It doesn't always work, but introducing the big bad like that and just having a conversation, it shows that this game is not about two feral beasts. It's about two gods with very human problems or very very real problems, personal problems that they're willing to talk about. And if there's no understanding, then we throw hands, which is why that first scene with Thor and Odin and Atreus and Mimir and Kratos, everyone talking and kind of just you feel the tension because they're trying their best to kind of resolve everything amicably, but then it's not a once. You see how far Kratos has come, because if Odin has shown up and Kratos was all Kratos, that they would have thrown hands. Like Kratos would not even thought about it. He would have seen Odin and he would have just tackled the man. But no, Kratos is trying to change, so it's nice to just see them talk. What a great game. What a great game.
Yeah, it's such a layered game that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't wait till you get farther and we can finally have a spoiler cast because I can guarantee you
Yes.
we could talk about this game for like 5 hours, dude.
We
Because
really
there's
can.
so much to unpack in it.
There's so much. There's too much. And having
I'm
finished
excited.
the story and rolling credits on it, this game truly has enough content for us to talk about for at least like 3 podcasts, which is insane. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. To kind of move away from the Ragnarok story stuff, do you guys think that we we're it feels like we're done with like the phase 1 era of like PlayStation 5, at least like first party wise. Like it feels like God of War Ragnarok was like the last big game from first party that we knew about. Like obviously Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine are on the horizon, but it very much feels like everything, like if you go back and remember that first PS5 event, like everything, and then the September one that showed off Final Fantasy 16 for the first time, like basically all of those games are out, right? So like I don't know, it just very much feels like so much is unknown with the studios and like what they're working on and stuff like that. It very much feels like we're moving into like, you know, now that God of War is out the door, it very much feels like okay, we're moving into sort of like the next phase of what like the next 2-3 years are going to look like for PS5.
What
Yeah,
do you think,
I mean,
Macho?
again, everything is really up in the air. Like you said, we have no idea. So I'm still hoping for that PlayStation Showcase on December 13th at
Macho, you wait first you were like, okay, it's coming in September. Now it's coming October 31st.
Yeah, what
It's
are you,
coming November
Microsoft? No, I'm
13th.
kidding.
What's going on,
Listen,
man? You keep pushing these dates back.
Listen, I'm giving the Game Awards some time to breathe, right? 5 days is enough. I'll give it,
Sure.
still get the hype of the Game Awards and the announcements. December 13th is a perfect date, sir. I don't know what you're talking
Right.
about. I don't even know what day it actually is in December, but at least it's a day, all right?
Oh man, that's crazy.
That
But
sounds like whoa, that sounds like some desperation right
That's some
there.
copium right there, boy. That's some
I
copium.
mean, we'll talk about it, but like, definitely can't have all the announcements, right? Come on now.
I
I
mean,
mean, I
it depends.
wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, man.
Because also like
Uh,
announcements vary by company. Some companies really don't do the whole announcement thing. They just do the whole cowboy photo during the summer. Oh yeah, we're doing Red Dead this year or next year. So it's like some announcements are just very low key but very hype, which is jarring. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, well, on a serious note, I really think that we're not going to get anything sort of PS5 new game related
Mm-hmm.
until like after maybe March. I mean, yeah, I think
Mm.
maybe March because we got Forspoken in January.
Oh man,
What's in February? There's like so many games. There's Hogwarts Legacy,
Dead
uh,
Space is
Dead
January.
Space. Yeah, there's so many games in January and February that I really think we're not gonna get anything confirmed from like, Haven or Blue Point Studio or anything like that
Yeah.
until at
Hell
least
no.
March. Yeah, not until at least like March or the very earliest. Because again, all the
Bro.
games are coming out in the beginning of the year, and on top of that, they got PSVR 2 to promote for the next couple
Yeah.
months. So
Yeah. That was wild to me, man. Like I was watching kind of funny like a few months back when like when the hope that a PlayStation showcase was still in the air, and
Hmm.
people were making predictions and
was
stuff like
was it? Watch your mouth, sir. Was
that. um, but yeah, that that air don't exist anymore, man. It's gone.
Yeah, that's
Um,
gone.
but
We in the
yeah,
state
but
of
like
play dimension.
one of the hosts, like his prediction was Haven, that he wants to see Haven at this next showcase. I'm like, guys, like Haven, they've only existed for like a year. Like give them some time, man. We're not gonna see anything from them for like a long time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I mean to your point about saying you don't expect anything to happen until like March or something like that. I always was of the opinion that like why would you have a showcase in this September when clearly a lot of these teams are still early or have just released a game? So like a lot of your teams won't be ready to show something in September, but if you give them an extra 6 months and you have a showcase in like March, maybe you do have a Naughty Dog, Neil Druckmann's next game show up at that. Maybe you do have Corey Barlog's next game show up at that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I think that's a better option to have like an extra 6 months instead of doing it in September, where you may not have a lot of teams being ready to show off something.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not as simple as just like cutting, may having some gameplay and then cutting it up and then throwing it on screen. Like there's a lot that goes into it. There's like months of preparation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I can see them wanting to give them the extra time to make room for that. So I mean, like again, I'm not blowing up any smoke because I'm playing the games. I'm having fun. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff to look forward to. So like, what are we really complaining about here?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
You know.
But yeah, man, just wanted to bring up that little point. 'Cause yeah, I thought it was it definitely feels like we're kind of in uncharted territory from here on out.
Haha.
Oh
Sony.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so let's move on to move on from that positive news
Oh man.
and let's talk about. So it's funny that we were talking about Sonic Frontiers in the last podcast, and you
Mm-hmm.
know that game definitely has its issues, but I think the main takeaway is that that game has a pretty okay foundation that fans want to see like built upon for a future game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, kind of positive vibes around Sonic last week, and then this week, I don't know if you guys saw.
Oh man. Oh
I was
man.
gonna put this in a tweet too, but I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it.
Oh
I
man.
definitely wanted to talk about it.
Okay.
The the co-creator of Sonic, Yuji Naka, has been arrested in Japan.
Oh man.
Along with a couple
Uh,
other Square Enix employees, yes sir.
Man,
so
Macho, what's happening with your company, man? What's your man's?
My
so
company, man. Yes.
so this is I'm reading off of Kotaku right now. Quote unquote. Let's see where do okay. So so over the past 24 hours, a number of people in Japan, including a Square Enix employee, have been arrested on insider trading charges related to a new Dragon Quest game announcement. So the scandal centers around a studio called Aiming, which in 2020 was announced as the developer of a new Dragon Quest game called Tact. Last night, it was first alleged that 38-year-old Square Enix employee Taizuke Sasaki, who has worked on Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, knew of the deal before it was publicly announced. Along with a friend, purchased a ton of shares in Aiming, hoping to profit when their share price presumably went up. Naka was also a part of this, and that's obviously illegal. So, um,
Obviously. Come on.
right, right. So, guys, what's going on, man? Yuji Naka. I feel like he's been taking a lot of L's lately.
Dude, so the first thing I thought of when I saw the headline on VGC Chronicle was that man should just stay in his lane and didn't sue Square Enix because I guarantee they dug into this man's past and they found this, right? Because this guy was creating, it was blowing up smoke over Balan's Wonder World, Wonderland, or whatever this case may be. The fight wasn't worth it, son. It wasn't worth it. because now his ass is sitting in a county jail, just reminiscing of all the times he could have been counting his money from this illegal act here.
Not the county jail.
This is wild, son. I don't know, man. It obviously has nothing to do with Sonic Frontiers, but it's. I saw Square Enix in the headline. Now, I'm not gonna lie, dude. I kind of did a little fist bump. I was like, yes, yes, get them while they're down.
Oh man.
Square Enix has been pissing me off, bro. And it was so funny because Flame from LordsOfGaming.net, he messaged me, I think Sunday or Monday, saying like, I got my I got my tabs open for Square Enix, see what the kind of stuff they'll do this week. I'm sure it'll be nothing, but fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we'll see something happen. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. And then I come back to him with the VC article. I'm like, Flame, you jinxed this. This is your fault. This is your fault. And he was dying laughing. We're just like, dude, how of all things, Square Enix employees and the co-creator of Sonic get arrested for something like this? Like,
Yeah,
like Jesus.
I don't know, man. I don't have much to say about this. I just thought it was it was wild to see, man. Like I was just scrolling through Twitter and I see co-creator of Sonic arrested. I was like, "What?"
I didn't know if you want to talk about it. I was like, oh man, we shouldn't dunk on this man, but it's probably it's probably valid at this point.
Well, the good thing is that like, hey, he didn't murder anybody, so like,
Yeah.
so at least he didn't do that. But man, this is still wild, man, because it just feels like it's not directly tied to Sonic, but at the same time, like a lot of those headlines are gonna have Sonic in it. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah.
like, it just feels like, man, like even when Sonic kind of gets a win, there's still like something about it, you know.
I mean, to be
Oh
fair though, a lot of people are saying more positive things from what I'm seeing, and the game, I almost actually insta bought it when it was on sale on Amazon for like $40 earlier in the week.
nah, I
I I
I
I was so close because I see some people saying like from podcasts or whatever that that the actual soundtrack for the game slaps. And I'm like, okay, that's something I actually want to experience because Sonic games usually are known for their soundtracks too. But so I ended up just listening to it on YouTube, and it's actually really good. I was really digging. I'm like, all right, this actually makes me want to play the game. So when I saw it, I almost copped it, but too many games to play right now. So sorry, Sonic. But
oh man. But yeah, man, yeah, it's Walt. Do you have anything to say about this Sonic situation?
is he back? I'm not sure if he's back yet. He said
Okay,
he went to go check on his dog.
I heard the noise, so I thought he was here.
Yeah, no,
Um,
he's still gone.
but yeah, I guess we can move on then. Just interesting little story to to bring up. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess like should we just go and jump into the Game Award nominees?
Yeah, yeah. Let's jump into the Game Award nominees. Yeah, I guess so. I was hoping we get Walt in here for this one, but he says he's still checking on his dog right now. So we'll see where we go from there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
because I know he wants to talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet reviews. I just know it. I felt the hatred in his voice when I just mentioned it.
right,
So.
right. We'll definitely get him for that. Um, so like, how do you want to structure this? Because like, it, I don't know. I don't think we should go through all the categories and nominees like right now. Obviously, we'll do that for the show before the actual awards. But do you want to just like bring up the things that we're most like interested, or that we most want to talk about, and then obviously we'll talk about the big game of the year nominees, or what? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, I think we could just kind of like break down sort of like our thoughts on the actual nominees themselves because there's a lot of surprising stuff and some controversial, I'll say, like content creator of the year, uh narrative. I can see one that at least I've heard from like being pretty controversial. So yeah, let's break it down not by each section, but I think the what we most want to talk about and go from there. So Walt said he's back, but let's
Mhm.
start off with you. So, what do you want to talk about the most out of this list?
Um, oof, I don't. I'm really first and foremost. I don't know if there's like a specific category that I want to talk. I'm sad that Roller Drome got like no love. I'm really sad about that.
Yeah.
But just in general, I'm that A Plague Tale Requiem got as much love as it's getting in terms of just like performance and music and audio design. I think it's an audio design. Um, but just like I feel like the important categories, man, it's like really represented well, and I think that game deserves it. It was a shock because I think even last podcast, right? I said I don't think A Plague Tale is gonna be in Game of the Year. It was probably going to get nominations in other categories, but I didn't think it was going to be Game of the Year. Um, so that truly shocked me. And I don't know, I'm just really happy because I don't know, it feels like that's a game like done right, if that's even a thing. Is it not laden with like bullshit microtransactions, or it's not a live service game, or I don't know. It just feels like an honest to goodness, like good single player game, like a God of War Ragnarok. And I'm always going to be in support of those kinds of games. So to see it get as much love as it's getting was really cool to see.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a great point because yeah, we're going through the actual nominees.
Mhm.
Again, we didn't really know what to expect, and it's not like one of those things where what we're talking a little bit before the podcast too, that it wasn't a dry year for games. Like it was a great year.
Yeah.
So going into this nominees, like it was really kind of up in the air. It's not like, oh well, there's gonna be this default game. There's of course we had our initial like conception was with Elden Ring and God of Ragnarok being such heavy hitters, but everything else just kind of up in the air because everything else was just so good. So seeing the nominees again, I was kind of the same way. I was like, yeah, I'm happy with a lot of these choices. There's a couple of things here and there that was really odd, like the content creator stuff. Um, that just seems like so out of left field. There's diversity is not even like uttered in that whole entire candidacy, and I never heard of anybody in there besides Nebelian, which again was also another weird choice.
You're
But
insane. You've never heard of anyone else?
nope, nope.
Dude, literally what they did for content creator of the year is insert most popular YouTubers. Cause
Which is funny because I use YouTube's like my main platform to use, but I never heard of those people.
because Ludwig right now, he's regarded as like the king of content on YouTube. He does a lot of like not clickbaity, but like challenges and a lot of interactive. He was previously on Twitch, and then he did a deal with YouTube, so he migrated to YouTube. Carl Jacobs, I believe he's part of the Mr. Beast gang. He's a big part of those. I have no idea who Nobru is. Cutie Cinderella is Ludwig's partner, but she's also a huge content creator and streamer. So these make sense, but also they're like the most. Literally, they said, let's get just the top, most talked about people this year. Nebelian just makes me think, what is content for these awards? So what does content mean anymore? Not that in a bad way, but like what is? It's like an elusive term now.
Yeah, like it feels like it's like mistitled or something. Like it should be like I thought about this earlier. Like it should be like influencer of the year or something like that. Or
because then you have the description saying, for a streamer or content creator who has made an important and positive impact on the community in 2022. So you could argue that like Nebelian then just delivers, unfiltered like true content or used to, because a lot of the things that he would share or post or reveal would be news stories or events happening that would, the positivity being information. So he was a good like kind of news source. News as content.
Notes of video game news.
Yeah. So like, I guess they're trying to incorporate that side of the community. I'm not mad with the pick. I'm just more of, okay, then we need to redefine what we think content is. Content is just, it's just a information or entertainment or just you're creating something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I never heard of those people, so
I'm sure Ludwig will win. Ludwig is gonna win, either Ludwig or Cutie, because they're both like they're massive in entertainment. So I don't know.
YouTube is doing a very good job of keeping me in my bubble. Then
Yeah, no, good job. Because Ludwig, I do watch some Ludwig's videos, mainly because he's been in collaboration with like Trash Taste, which is a podcast I watch. So this makes sense. And Carl Jacobs, he's a very charismatic and very like you're by the book YouTuber personality. What's it called? One of the nominees that I do want to check out, I haven't seen, I haven't looked at, is Score and Music. Who's on there? Oh man, that's a tough one. That's got Plague Tale, Elden Ring, God of War, Metal Hellsinger, and Xenoblade. Now, Macho, you've played
music?
Yeah, that's for best score and music. For outstanding music inclusive of score, original song, and or licensed soundtrack. So I want to start with you, Sol. A Plague Tale Requiem. What's the music like on that? What's it?
God, it is so fucking good, dude.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, it's like A Plague Tale and Ragnarok are like my two favorite soundtracks of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's very dark, like reliant on like heavy strings, like big cellos and like violins, or not violins, but yeah, like big cellos.
Yeah, string. Yeah, it like tells a story through it.
Heavy strings, yeah.
You know what it reminds me, Sol? Sorry to cut you off. It reminds me
you're good.
The way that they talk about, the way that they Bear McCreary, and I don't know who does Plague Tale, but the way that they incorporate music, it reminds me a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender with Azula's theme. Every time she got even crazier, the strings would just get even more distorted. So whenever her theme came up, it would be even more messed up, and to the point where it was unrecognizable from the initial time that they had her theme. So I think that the way that they incorporate this is, for my experience with Ragnarok, I haven't played Plague Tale Requiem, but I know that whenever the theme is very much the essence of the theme, I don't know how you call that in music terms, but it's very much the same. But then overall, like if Freya's on screen, if Odin is on screen, if Kratos is on screen, the theme changes to fit the situation or the tension or out, you know, if it's outgoing or if they're having an adventure. So I really like how they tell a story through music. I assume Plague Tale does that as well.
Yeah, definitely. It just really like amplifies the the moments that you're in. And I don't know, it just does a really really good job of just like cementing sort of just like how awful and grimy and, and dirty and disgusting everything is during that time period.
Delicious.
And it also a good job of like getting into like Amicia's mindset, because like I've talked about this before, but like a lot of that game is just like seeing like the deterioration of that character mentally, like her literally having breakdowns because of all the things that she has to do. And like the music, I don't know, I think it does a really good job of like mirroring that.
Okay.
And it's really tense and stuff like that. Well, you know that I love a soundtrack when I post it on my Instagram story.
Dude, whenever I see you listening to it on your car, that's when I know it hit. That's when you
For sure.
I know you're just listening to it every day when you go to school or whatever or work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what God of War has been right now as well.
Yeah,
So,
same.
yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I haven't done that with a game since, and I'm gonna be honest, this is 100% honesty. I haven't done that with a game like on repeat in my car since Persona. Like that for me, that's me. Because usually, not that I have Persona all the time, but like I have more just like music from artists and whatever. But from composers, it's usually Final Fantasy, you know, the reliable ones that have like music for the days. Now my question is, Tamacho, you've played Xenoblade. What do you think it can, you know, how it fares against its contestants here?
I feel like it's like a easy win for Xenoblade with this one,
Okay.
and not specifically because the other nominees are weak. It's just Xenoblade 3 has such a great chemistry with the soundtrack, and it's so varied and interesting and adventure like and super fun. But the actual main theme with the flute, it just gets played so many damn times. I just got sick of it. Like they play it excessively in the game.
He's riffing on that
like,
flute.
dude, he was absolutely. They're both going in on the flute, Mio and Noah. I was just like, Jesus, dude. Like, okay, I get it. Like, but the thing is, there's a lot of sentimental value with it too. So I think there's a lot of care and depth, and like most JRPGs when it comes to their soundtracks, it's made. It feels like it's one with like the actual product. So that's why I feel like it's like it could be a really easy win for Xenoblade. But dude, Ragnarok.
My personal vote is for Ragnarok, man. The mind you, out of the ones that I've played here, the only ones I have not played are Xenoblade and A Plague Tale. I have played Metal Hellsinger, if only for a bit. It's a rhythm game, so it's a Doom rhythm game essentially. But the music is fantastic. But I don't. For me, it doesn't compare to the rest. By no means is discrediting it. I think it's a fantastic one. Now, gentlemen, real quick, because I want to touch on it real quick, and then we'll go to another one if we want. We've all played this game. What do we think about Elden Ring?
Not for me. No.
So we've, and this is for everyone. We've all played the Souls games. I assume, Soul, you and I have talked about it a lot in the past. How do you think this fares in comparison? Because we've always been huge fans of the music. I've been a huge fan of all Souls music. But this year, it didn't hit quite as hard as previous years.
Interesting that you say that, because now that I think about it, I couldn't tell you a specific soundtrack from that game. If I think about Dark Souls 3, I will immediately bring up the Twin Princes, like that soundtrack.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Soul
The Abyss
Cinder,
Watchers, like oh man,
right, or Soul Cinder, the music that plays during that boss fight, obviously, right.
The
Or
change in to string, the way that it goes to piano, from like
kills me every
midway.
time.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. I listen to that soundtrack still to this day. Flame Lurker, Maiden Estrella,
Ooh,
the Storm King, right?
dude,
Like
Bloodborne,
I
the
love all
accursed,
those.
with the accursed, that soundtrack, dude, it's so good.
That as well. I mean, if you bring up Bloodborne, I will bring up Ludwig. I will
Hmm.
bring up Bloodstarved Beast,
Yep.
Lady Maria's theme, the main theme for Bloodborne, obviously, right? But with Elden Ring, I can just tell you that I really like that main menu song.
Which is also Radagon's theme. So I like. So this is my mind immediately goes to the Elden Beast. I love that soundtrack. I love that specific song, but I cannot, for the life of me, remember the rest of the songs of all the bosses.
You know what I think it is? It's
What?
because we spend so much time in that open world, and you know
Mm.
that music is just like the right, like
Yeah,
it's
it's
that
like Breath of the
It's
Wild. It's like
it's
there's
the
no music.
ambient music. It's the ambient
right,
music.
Yeah.
right, and because we spend so much time in that open world, we listen to that one specific track for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're in the you know, when you're actually fighting bosses, like what, you're in there for like maybe less than 5 minutes, and then you're out, right?
Yeah.
So like, I I'm not sure if the music really got a chance to like hook itself in my brain, like
Right.
the other Souls games got or were able to, honestly.
You know what's crazy? So, is that a game you haven't played it, but Sekiro doesn't make me think about the soundtrack. It makes me think of how I felt during that fight because of the soundtrack. So I remember the ape because of the soundtrack and the way that he got up and the way that it hit. So I don't remember, like Bloodborne, I can replay the song in my mind and kind of like remember it, you know, the low and like the going up and down. Like I can remember that. But for Elden Ring, it sucks that I can only remember. Not sucks. The only thing I can truly remember to heart is like not the layouts, but like the environments. For me, Elden Ring can very much take the like environmental design or whatever, the level design, because Elden Ring is immaculate in that sense. The way that they design the world, the what do they call the dungeons? The main dungeons, legacy dungeons. I think it exceeds far beyond any game this year in terms of that. As the overall game, it didn't hit the same. And I think the open world is that to its detriment? I don't know. So
Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, I do think it's an interesting discussion for sure. Yeah, I just and that's not to say that like the music is like
bad, no.
bad or right, because like I'm sure if I was to sit down and actually dedicate some time to like listening to it on my
Mhm.
on my own time, that then I would love it just as much as the other games.
Yeah.
But it does say something to me when, you know, I'm playing a plague and like I'm running from, you know, a forest that is catching on fire, and like the music is like swelling, and like I'm like literally on the edge of my seat as this incredible scene is happening before me, and the music does a lot to you know, contribute to me feeling so tense in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Elden Ring, like I don't remember the music at all except for that main menu theme. It's weird, man.
Because I think
Yeah, it's,
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
I'll jump in here and say that
Yeah, go for it.
you know because I got the collector's edition for Elden Ring and it came with the soundtrack,
Mhm.
so I was immediately excited to like, just download it, put it on my phone, and I listen to it at work or whatever because I was like my jam. And so listening to the entire soundtrack is, again, it's funny you guys are saying this because I did listen to it the entire thing. And I have like maybe 4 or 5 favorites out of like 60 songs.
That's crazy though. That's so
Yeah, I know.
unfortunate.
I know exactly. It's like the only thing I can remember is that main theme, Malekith's boss battle.
I don't even remember
And
Malekith's theme. God dang.
yeah, it's so like there's a couple of songs I remember from Elden Ring, but like nothing really hit as hard as like what we're talking about Bloodborne and even Dark Souls 3, like the Abyss Watchers. That theme and that entire scene was like ingrained into my brain.
Same.
It's so memorable,
Bro, the
But then,
dancer. Oh my
but
god.
then yeah, the answer too. But I was gonna say about God of War Ragnarok, like what kind of makes it stand above like the rest for me here from the games I did play, was the fact that that soundtrack itself is so organic and it's so like it reminds me of why I love Final Fantasy VII Remake soundtrack so much because everything blends into each other and it feels like one cohesive thing. And when I'm fighting a group of enemies in Ragnarok or something dramatic is happening in a cinematic sequence or a cutscene, I feel things.
Oh man.
You know,
Oh
like
man.
I feel things, and it gets so raw, man. It gets so raw in his soundtrack. Bear McCreary, like
He's a legend.
he did something with Ragnarok and Rings of Power that I
It did
couldn't
something
even,
to
like,
you.
fathom.
He did something that did something to you. Yeah, yeah.
He sure did. He sure did. This man touched my soul this year.
I don't know if it
sure.
was only the soul. Yeah.
Whoa.
Hey yo.
that guy is a gem.
He's a gem, yeah. They did a live stream this week where they did a
Yeah.
listen, yeah, and it was Alex McQualla, and yeah.
I was gonna mention that, which, like, again, it's one of the reasons why I wish Alex McCullough got a nomination for Content Creator of the Year, because just to sidetrack a little bit too, he brought over 1,000 Final Fantasy fans and a couple of notable Final Fantasy singers from Shadowbringers, Realm Reborn. He got them all in one freaking video singing "Close in the Distance" from Endwalker. And he mixed them all together to sound like amazing and creative and fun. And he's such a positive. Like, I'm so bewildered why he didn't get nominated, but that's besides the point. Yeah. So the actual live stream with them talking about the actual soundtracks and the main themes, and, you know, again, the whole process of creating that soundtrack for Ragnarok and what it meant building it and melting it from 2018 was just incredible. So. And to me, like, I have no other way than to give him the nomination, man. He's incredible.
And once again, this is to no discredit to who is it, Yatsunori? I wanna get the name.
Yeah, Yasunori Mitsuda. Yeah.
Yeah, so Yatsunori, you know, Tsukasa Saito, and, you know, Two Feathers and Olivier Deriver. But I think that the way, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the fact that in Bloodborne and Dark Souls and Sekiro, because the themes, the music feels like it's a part of the boss. So when you're fighting the dancer, you know, you just hear her heels and you hear the music in the background like start to go, like, just voices, and it's like an orchestra, like, go up and down, and it gets you into the rhythm of the fight. It gets you into the mood. It tells you, okay, we're taking it slow right now. And then it ramps up as it gets more intense. I unfortunately, never felt that in Elden Ring. Because whenever there was a moment to ramp it up, there was a cutscene. So for my indicator of ramping it up was a cutscene. It wasn't the music, if that makes sense. You know, when Godric is gonna go, you know, dragon arm, there's a cutscene for that. When Radahn is the only one that doesn't have a cutscene. He just goes up in the air and then blasts you in the face as a meteor. I don't know. Enough about scores. All fantastic video games. The industry has phenomenal composers. Is there anything else you want to touch on music, or do we want to go on another nominee?
I just want to say to Soul that what you just sent us in the DMs for on Discord.
Beautiful.
The first 30 seconds.
Beautiful,
bro.
Yeah, get into, like, the middle of the song. That's when it goes off for me.
That's when it makes you tickle.
This Olivier, they did their thing.
Yeah.
Jesus. This song, that's like one of the first songs I think that plays, and it plays like during the scene where like Amicia's like separated from her family and she's getting chased by all these army soldiers or whatever.
Like Inquisitors?
And I don't think it's the Inquisitors. It's like some other like country like soldiers or whatever. But like, so she's like literally running through like a field, like this wide open field of tall grass, and these soldiers are like shooting at her with like fire tipped crossbows. So like, you know, she's running and the field behind her is all catching on fire and stuff like that, and she has to like leap through a building, and then there's someone in there, and like, so yeah, that music is like playing while all this is happening. It's like, oh, it's such a good moment, man. I love it.
Yeah, Jesus, man.
Love it.
That kind of repetition, the violin just going back and forth, like, what a nail biter. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And it's constant too. Like, how does a musician do this for like so long.
Hey,
The
man.
concentration must be insane.
That's
dude.
years.
Oh my god.
Years of practice. They'll do that to you.
Dude, that's so insane. That just blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I feel like I mean, Macho, do you want to talk about the fighting game category?
Oh, sure.
Oh man,
Oh
let me see
man.
that. Let me look at it. Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
no,
man.
this was I saw Maximilian touch on this and he was absolutely pissed. Well, pissed
Is
and
it is it just
and
is it just because like they didn't have like enough like fighting games this year that they were just like, ah, fuck it, let's just put Sifu in there, or like what happened here?
No, there's that's absolutely not the case because even if you want to dig into like the bottom of the barrel stuff, not bottom barrel being like the crappy fighting games, more just like if we need stuff to put on here, you have the Capcom Fighting Collection. Like
Mm.
what? Like what the hell? That's one of the best. I even said it before in the podcast. That's one of the best compilation collections of a fighting game we've had yet. With all a bunch of bells and whistles, accessibility for how you want to play the games, whatever case may be, that should be in here. You know, and again, this comes from someone that loves Sifu. Like you guys know, I fell in love with this game early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
It has no reason to be up here, which is really weird. Multiverses, sure, yeah, I can see that one doing really well because that had its time in the limelight, and it still does because every time there's an announcement, there's always people complaining, so they're doing something right. And DNF Duel just kind of died. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of died. I'm not really sure what's going on with its development and any sort of future season, what the case may be. But it was a hot child in the summer of July, and then everybody just kind of fizzed out because there's no like constant updates. Despite it being a great game, it's an amazing fighting game. I love it. It's so much fun. Something I could just jump into and just that little pocket of summer that I've had with it, doing a tournament with it and really exploring the characters and playing the game was memorable. It was a lot of fun, but again, it kind of just died. There's not really that great content updates or we don't know anything about any future characters if they're coming or not, like, so it's really like up in the air with that game. So I think Multiverses is probably going to be the obvious winner of this one. It'll be I'm sure it'll be hell to pay if Sifu actually wins. That'd be really weird.
I'm gonna be that guy. I haven't seen Maximilian's video, but I'm gonna be that guy, okay, for a moment. I'm not mad that it's up there.
I mean, you're not a fighting game player though, right?
But the thing is that in my mind, my brain, my dumb brain, or whatever the case people want to call
definitely objectively wrong on this one.
I don't think so.
Because you are, because Sifu is not a fighting game. You're not fighting against other people.
No, you're fighting the AI. You can do that in fighting games too.
You do. You could do that in God of War Ragnarok. So why isn't that in this list?
No, because fighting game essentially, the combos and the grappling, the blocking, it's a type of fighting,
Yeah, in Ragnarok there's combos too.
Yeah, but there's also slashing, and whatnot,
Then why isn't Bayonetta in this game? Or in
That's not a fighting game. That's not a fighting game. It's Sifu. Sifu's a fighting game.
No, it's not.
It is.
It's inspired by fighting games because of what it does and like how people compare it to. But it's not a fighting game.
I think it is.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if Walt's taking the piss here or if he's being serious.
I think it's a fighting game. I don't know if it's a contender, but I think it's a fighting game.
I think he's taking the piss because he doesn't understand fighting games. Honestly.
No, I think you're taking your knowledge too far. I think it is. I think it is a fighting game.
My knowledge too far. You mean my actual time and depth with fighting games?
Where's the receipts? I don't see the receipts.
What's a fighting game to you?
A fighting game? It's a game where you fight.
Yeah, he's taking the piss. I'm not even gonna entertain this bullshit.
I just love that people get so hung up on this and don't just go I don't know. It's stupid. This is a dumb controversy. It's so stupid.
It's not because it's
so dumb.
Labeling is not an actual.
It's a fucking game. Who cares? Like I don't know. It's so dumb. The way people talk about it.
Let me stop you there. Well, let me stop you there.
Stop.
Because people say all the time that why does it matter about the Game Awards? It's just titles. It's just embellishments. Who gives a fuck, right? Listen, a lot of people care. This actually matters. Regardless of whether we like it or not, Game Awards matter. because that creates the label that everyone else outside of us sees. So if Sifu gets a nomination for best fighting game when it's not an actual fighting game, is a problem, because that's not the essence of what a fighting game is. Fighting game is fight when two actual people are fighting against each other. That's what fighting game is. It's not someone fighting an AI and you have combos and shit like that. No, that's not it. So this is mislabeling it. This just shows that people on the media side, the people that actually are voting for these nominations, don't understand what a fighting game is. And again, I can't blame them from that because not a lot of people play fighting games. So this is just a misstep in nomination. That's my opinion. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people
I
say
think-
tomato is a vegetable. It's not.
I think it's purely just because these the journalists or influencers who are voting on these kind of things,
Yes,
they just didn't play enough fighting games.
you are correct.
And
I didn't play any
but-
fighting games this year.
The one, but a lot of people did play Sifu, so they were like, oh, well, I guess I could just put this one in there, right? So I guess that's what happened.
Yeah, put it up there.
It'll be different. Well, if
I hope it
Sifu
wins.
had like a 2v2 or 1v1 whatever fighting game mode, like a multiplayer mode, then we'll have a different conversation. But it doesn't. It's a single player game.
So fighting game
Truly.
is defined by you being able to fight other people.
No, there's a lot more to it though.
No,
There's a
but
lot more
Macho
to
just
it,
says yes.
but that's because that's the core essence of it. That's why. What else are you going to be doing in a fighting game?
Fighting.
Other people, yes, not just AI.
Then
It's
this is
not-
another.
fighting games in our history have never been about single player content. I mean, obviously,
It's-
Mortal Kombat.
that's
is
the
big
thing,
on that
it-
because
we're
of
sa-
single player content.
The
But
argument sounds
regardless-
like traditional versus modern. It just sounds like the term has been one thing for the longest time and it can no longer be anything else. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like, back in my day. No, shut the fuck up. Maybe now it can be just single player. I don't know. I don't. I hope it wins. I hope it wins. I'm gonna vote for it. I hope it wins so that people know that their feelings don't matter.
I hate to break it to you, your vote don't matter in this case.
I don't care. It's gonna win. It's gonna win.
But yeah, man. So I did not think it was gonna get that heated for this one. I will be honest.
I love it.
That's because Walt is stupid and dumb, and his vote doesn't even matter. so I
It's
don't care.
stupid, dumb. Yeah. That's when you don't have an argument. Because what I said is true. Because
Go back to
tradition.
playing Overwatch, you noob. You don't even play fighting games. Let me sweep your ass in Street Fighter and see what you really thought.
Oh yeah, what is this? Call of Duty 1v1 me, bro. 1v1 me, bro. In Rust. Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up with that stupid shit.
So I mean, man, I gotta get a fucking gavel and be like, order.
I hope it wins.
But after that,
Yes.
you
It's
guys
like, how
just
do we
wanna go
move from
straight-
that?
I mean, let's just go straight to Game of the Year
All right.
and,
Let me
and
get
finish
that
off
list.
this topic with that. I mean, I can tell you it right now.
Okay,
You
perfect.
got Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Oof.
You got Horizon Forbidden West.
Oof.
You got God of War Ragnarok. You
Oof.
got Elden Ring.
Oof.
You got A Plague Tale Requiem.
Oof.
Almost forgot, but didn't. You got Stray.
Why?
This was wild to me.
Yeah.
Played that game. I enjoyed that game, but I have not thought about that game ever since I beat it.
The cat people are taking over, bro. It's the cat people are taking over the game.
Yeah, they get so few W's. This is the only W they can get.
But here's the thing, and I think this gets into like a wider discussion of just like what is Game of the Year.
Oh man,
like-
this is the what is episode. What is a fighting game? What is content creator? What is game of the year?
So like I think about
Yeah,
I
this
think
discussion is what it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think about Animal Crossing in 2020. Like that game, if you think about like the sheer impact that game had in terms of just like how many people were like for a lot of people during the pandemic, when the pandemic was like literally just kicking off and we were all self quarantining and whatnot, like that was the thing that got people through that initial period of quarantine, right? So like that game
Absolutely.
felt like it had like a wider impact that went beyond just like like normal gaming or whatever. So I feel like although that game doesn't have like crazy combat or crazy graphics or an incredible engrossing story or whatever,
Mhm.
I feel like that's totally a fair pick for a game of the year, right? For Animal Crossing, like I totally understood why that would be someone's game of the year.
Right.
For Stray, like let's be honest, have nowhere near that impact, but I still feel like the amounts of like people who are not normally into gaming who were playing that game, and the memes, just like everyone's cats who were like obsessing over this game as well, right? Like
Yeah.
I wonder if that sort of like wider like that game's ability to sort of like bleed into like common or gamer, not hardcore gamers, right, casual gamers and stuff like that, and to break into the mainstream, if that is like the reason why it's here, maybe I don't know. Like how do you guys feel about just that idea of like what is game of the year? Because like I don't think it necessarily needs to be the game with like the best story or the best combat or the best graphics or stuff like that. I think a game can do other things and still be in that conversation.
Um,
Uh,
you go ahead, Macho.
go, no, go for it, go for it, go.
I think in essence, you brought up Animal Crossing. First and foremost, games are about impact. Um, it's what made the biggest impact or what make the biggest technical mark. If you don't have anything else to worry, the people involved in voting, if there's nothing else influencing their decision, like life or sadness or depression or helplessness or a pandemic or whatever the case may be, games will be chosen among what the game is in its core. If not, it'll be based on what the world is being going through, like it did with Animal Crossing, for instance. This year, I think when like you have things like Elden Ring, you have things like God of War. These are long-awaited pieces of medium. What makes a game of the year? Again, impact. With Stray, probably a lot of these people didn't play the other games, and they just played Stray, or this is the biggest game they played, or they have a cat, or they really like cats. Because you cannot tell me objectively, we're going back to that word, objectively, if someone played both God of War and Stray, and they do not have any affiliation to cats, that they would pick Stray. If they do, I want to talk with them to see what's wrong with them. But I want to verify, like, how do you two, you Soul and Macho, how do you two discern what a game of the year is for you? Because objective, subjective, fuck all that. Everything is subjective. Everything's written by man. The Bible, textbooks, everything is man written or women written. So nothing is objective. This world runs on no absolutes. So what are your thoughts?
You want me
Marshall,
to
you
go,
want to
Saul?
go? Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
So, well, if we're going by game of the year kind of definition,
Mm-hmm.
it literally says it right there. Recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. And I'd say that kind of aligns with like my thoughts on like what a game of the year is too, besides like my own personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's what is driving the industry forward in a creative and technical aspect. Um, so that's where I kind of agree with like some of these nominees. I mean, I don't know about Stray 'cause I didn't play it, but from what Soul's saying, it's kind of like a question mark on the nominees here. But
Mm-hmm.
everything else, without taking everything into consideration, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 technical, that's not pushing the industry forward. Um, Horizon Forbidden West, God of Ragnarok, Plague Tale, Requiem, those are technical games pushing the industry forward in terms of graphic fidelity and performance and stuff like that. Um, Elden Ring, I don't think so, but like for creative aspect, then you're just leaving me with the two things: got Elden Ring and God of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
They're really pushing the industry forward, regardless of like any sort of personal opinion, because of what they do and how they're structured in the direction of both of them. So, I think it's going to be a tough sell for either game here, but mostly Elden Ring and God of Ragnarok, and it goes back to what you were saying, Soul, or sorry, Walt, with like what was the impact of each game,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it solely relies on impact itself. Like, well, it does have a great like significance, especially when it comes to cultural impact. But for Elden Ring, that definitely sent waves through the industry.
Yeah.
But I think it's really a matter of what are we really talking about in terms of pushing the industry forward in terms of game design and what we're all expecting and what we all sort of hope for in these games.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if Elden Ring really does that. Especially since the fact that Animal Crossing was such a huge leap, like it made such a huge cultural impact, especially for us in the pandemic that you mentioned, Soul, but it didn't win Game of the Year. Last of Us 2 did.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's where like I'm kind of like back and forth between Ragnarok and Elden Ring, like who really has like the inch forward here, and I think it really comes down to, uh, what the critics really think had an
Or
effect on
feel.
them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At
So
the end of the day,
so
we're
here's
relying on a select few. So it's not whatever's driving the industry forward doesn't have to be a technical aspect. Animal Crossing drove the industry forward by uniting people, by giving us hope, by letting us know that games, they can take us out of some crappy reality. So I don't think
Yeah,
that
but
everything.
we're not just talking about emotion.
But
We're
that's the
talking
thing.
about
That's its
we're
core.
also talking
Because
about
it is
that
impossible
again.
for a
That's
reviewer to be
but
just objective. Because every reviewer relies on their emotion.
right. But so it's not. But it's not just emotional
It's not
score.
just that, but it's a factor, and people
It's
forget that. People think that everything's technical, and it's not. Emotion and technicalities go hand in hand. Because
right.
a game is art. Art makes you feel things. Like Soul said earlier. The music when the flames are engulfing the forest. When you mentioned with Xenoblade and the flute, it makes you feel a certain way. That impacts how you write about this game. But it's not all about that. But it's a factor. That's why if emotion is at play, there's no objective. It's all subjective. What are you gonna say, Soul?
when I think about Elden Ring specifically,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's the most like innovative game. It's innovative for that franchise for From Software because they've never done anything like that. But like let's be honest, for the wider industry, I mean it hasn't really done anything new per se. But once again, for From, yeah, that was a completely different direction for them.
Yeah.
Well, didn't I just say
But
that
the
like before the podcast too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I said the exact same thing. Yeah.
but the thing is, why I do think it will have that sort of impact that you were and why I disagree that it actually will have impact is because other companies are looking at Elden Ring and seeing, okay, why did this work? Why did this game have what is it, like 13 million copies sold already?
Mm-hmm.
With
17.
under 17 under a year. 17 the games only like Rockstar games hit that close to that number, right? Call of Duty, on PlayStation exclusives hit that number after like a number of years, right? But this game was able to do it under a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why did that happen? And I think that's where the impact will come from.
Yeah.
Other companies looking at what From did with Elden Ring, seeing what worked, and trying to implement that into future games. I think Elden Ring will have a ripple effect in that sense of how open worlds are created going forward. And yeah, I think that's like one feather in its cap in terms of like what game had the biggest impact or will have the biggest impact that we probably won't see for years to come. I think it's definitely Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
the thing is, I would mention that we've seen something like Elden Ring before, and that's Breath of the Wild.
but that's from Nintendo. That's the thing. The difference. I think to Soul's point, what companies will do is not emulate, but imitate. So they're not gonna emulate what they did and like replicate rather. They're not gonna replicate what Elden Ring did. They're gonna imitate what FromSoft did, and it's innovate in their own right. So Insomniac is not gonna go, oh, we just need to do open world. No, they've done that. What can they do to innovate the next Spider-Man or the next or Wolverine or the next, superhero game? I think that the impact, I think personally, is not what make this game successful. Oh, it's because I think Elden Ring was successful because not only was it more innovative or different than previous FromSoft games, but it also was more accessible for people that struggle with past games. Not accessible in terms of accessibility, but in terms of beginner friendly, more casual gamer friendly, people that have never touched a FromSoft game could play Elden Ring. And for a majority of people that I saw, it was a lot easier than previous ones. So I think that the impact is that companies will look at it and go, oh, we need to be different than our previous ones. We need to bring, sometimes different is good. Sometimes it's not. Look at Call of Duty. It's been the same thing for the last 10 years, essentially in its core. And the formula still works. They still sell millions. Not to say they haven't done different gimmicks here and there, but at its core, it's the same thing. So, well, yes, Macho, Breath of the Wild did it, but that Nintendo, that was their first time doing it. This is FromSoft's first time. And FromSoft is like big boy Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring. It's like on steroids, essentially.
I think companies will try to emulate like what they did in terms of like, 'cause for whatever reason, like after
Not
Breath of the
hand
Wild,
holding?
like sure. But for whatever reason, like when Breath of the Wild came out, like not a lot of games like really nailed. Not a lot of games got right that sort of open world. Like I look at Ubisoft and it's like Watch Dogs Legion, Far Cry 6, games like that. Like I feel like they didn't take the right lessons from Breath of the Wild. A game like Horizon, definitely did.
I'll tell you one that did though. That was huge the past 2 years.
Which one?
What?
Genshin Impact.
People
literally call that Breath of the Wild clone.
You have people calling Ghost of Tsushima kind of Breath of the Wildish.
But
I don't know. I don't know about that, but
I mean, tell them. Don't tell me.
But like my hope is that that other teams do like take a really hard look and say and see like, hey, this worked with a ton of people. Let's try to implement some of that into our games. Just primarily the less hand-holdy things, because like I guess it's cool that you have the option to turn off the HUD and the mini map and the compass or whatever in a game like Horizon or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it's so cool would be so cool if like you just don't have any of that stuff in general, and like you just have to figure things that you just go out and you see something, no pun intended, but you see something on the horizon, you're like, oh, what's that? Let me go over and see what that is,
Intend your puns, weakling.
But yeah, I think that's more what it's gonna be, not necessarily teams looking at themselves and being like,
I sure hope it's not what you say, because I don't want more open world games, man. What I do want, it's more, less hand holding. But how do you do that in a linear game?
Well, that's the thing. I think.
Let me finish my goddamn puzzles in Horizon.
Oh, okay.
God of War.
God of War, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I really don't see PlayStation, especially PlayStation exclusives, really taking this route, because they're successful in what they're doing, but two, these things are really dumb expensive to make. So they want to make sure you finish the damn game. And that's why Atreus will tell you the solution to freaking puzzles in the game when you're just looking around for like 2 or 3 minutes. And again, it's super annoying. I hate that they do that, and I wish there was an option you could turn that off. But that's kind of the mindset with them. And I don't think Elden Ring is really going to influence them in that sense, or even Breath of the Wild with like whatever game they're going to be doing next.
Because you have literally two starkly different games. One that does not tell you anything, one that tells you everything. And they're both being contenders for Game of the Year. They're both like having some impact. Well, Elden Ring, we've seen the impact now. God of War is very recent. We don't know how that's going to look in the next coming months. But they're starkly different, narrative experiences, world experiences, music, everything. They're supremely different from each other. They're both.
From what other people are saying, what you told me, Walt, Ragnarok sticks the landing.
Yeah,
and that's super important.
Yeah, it does.
That's incredibly hard to do. That's stuff you only that kind of stuff you see rarely, right?
Yeah.
You look at Spider-Man 3 and the Maguire trilogy, trash, hot fire.
Hey yo,
didn't stick.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is better. Yeah.
Yeah, is 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting for Soul to say.
I know he's not gonna say shit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say
it. So like, I think that has a great influence too.
Yeah.
And Forbidden West, for all intents and purposes, a great game, but it's not like an end closer to the series. You know, there's a lot more on the way, on the horizon,
Yeah,
if you will.
LMAO.
Um,
No, but here's the thing, Macho. Also, with Elden Ring, it's unfortunate, but we talked about sales, right? A lot of it, a lot of people playing it, but not a lot of people finished it. Not a lot of people saw that end boss. A lot of people didn't
oh,
finish.
really?
Yeah, no, I countless during that month. There was one boss that people gave up on, and well, two bosses. It was either the fire giant or Radagon.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Those were the two bosses that were kind of like the indicators. Okay, I'm done. Like I got the experience I wanted, and I think by the time you're the fire giant, you've had kind of the Elden Ring experience. You know, open world bosses, great music, great level design, whatever. You did your co-op, you did your PvP, all that. But again, I understand. So what you're mentioning of replicating like not the hand holding, but then what does that say about Ragnarok? You know, because it hand holds to no degree, but everything else is so good. It kind of like I'm good with the hand holding in those moments. Like everything else just works. That's like a minor gripe in the game because it's not about the puzzles. It's about the experience and the story and the combat and everything. Whereas Elden Ring, it makes sense that they don't hold your hand. Uh, I think some Ubisoft games would vastly improve from taking out some of the content and diminishing the UI, and you have a solid game. But they just go overboard, and it just doesn't work. You know, like with
Yeah.
Macho, we've talked about how Elden Ring has an identity crisis. Elden Ring is trying to be various things, and it and not in gameplay, but in tone. And it makes sense. It's a shattered lands or whatever the hell it is, and everything's like there's various parts of the world converging, but it feels like they try to do various things and none of them felt particularly extraordinary. Well, God of War, it's a full on. It not only is a one shot, it's again like the first one, but it's a 10 out of 10 almost nearly 10 out of 10 in all fronts. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I do hope that
Yeah.
we don't just go more open world. So
It's interesting talking about like these different experiences with all these games because like with the ones I played being like what 4 out of the 6 are here. Um,
mhm.
Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 feel the most familiar because of how they're designed. But with Elden Ring and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, there's more of a sense of accomplishment and like discoverability within both of those worlds that made it so enticing to go back to. Horizon Forbidden West was great, and in terms of just actually exploring how beautiful everything looked, and just the enemies and themselves fighting them was just great. The combat's excellent, but yeah, again, it feels a little more in that cookie cutter phase compared to the other two on this list here. But then we got to where Ragnarok's like it's such a compact experience, and it's so wonderful. And even if you go off doing side stuff, you feel like you're doing it for more than just I want to pad out my game hours and get the most out of it. No, you want to do it because you feel so motivated to do everything. So
You know what's interesting, Macho,
it's
of
really
that?
interesting.
It's fascinating how this game Ragnarok achieves their side content. But if you don't do the side content, you never feel that you're not that there's incomplete, that your journey's incomplete. There's not a moment where the side content, if you do it now, you do it once you beat the game, whatever, like the first one, it never feels like the classic, this is the point of no return. Everything feels so organic. And I think that's huge. It sticks the landing, like you mentioned. And accessibility, it's like insane. Right now it's playing one of the videos, but the accessibility options in Ragnarok are insane. When
I'm
compared.
glad you mentioned that because I think that's another big factor in whether Ragnarok will win or not.
Yeah, yeah. Because right now
Like
the industry is huge on advocating for people when with accessibility situations and whatnot, which is great. And you look at Elden Ring, it doesn't really have that. Then you have the whole argument of Elden Ring shouldn't people arguing for Elden Ring. It has to be played a certain way, and if you can't play, you can't play. And it has all that toxic.
Yeah, let's not get into that.
Let's not get into that. So
Wait, what? I missed that. What happened? I was checking the audio real quick.
No, it's just toxic conversations around Elden Ring and difficulty and accessibility. So
Oh, gotcha.
that's a whole
Okay.
can of worms. Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be interesting nonetheless. I honestly don't. I would lean. If you guys had to, like, put your vote down today, which one do you guys think is gonna win? I'm gonna say Elden Ring.
Oh, think is gonna win. Oh man, I don't want to manifest it, man. I don't want to say the word. Ragnarok is gonna win. Ragnarok.
It's so hard because of all the points that we've been discussing the past like 15, 20 minutes. But Stray.
Man, I hope you step on a Lego.
The cat game went above Elden Ring and Ragnarok.
Yeah,
Honestly, I would.
Don't do
I don't
it.
think it's
So
gonna happen. I don't think
Okay,
it's gonna
thank
happen
you.
for the Game Awards, but for
Best indie?
Dice. No. For Dice, the Dice
Oh.
Awards, I could see it there because they actually in 2020 they voted Untitled Goose Game for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
That was
That's funny.
the year that Last of Us Part 2 came out, Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, but no, they chose Untitled Goose Game for whatever.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I bet there's other games too, with like Cult of the Lamb and a couple other
Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Hello.
Kirby,
Pokemon Legends
sure.
Arceus. Hello.
Sure.
Hello.
No, I mean, if to answer your question, so I think, man, it's so hard, but
I don't want Elden Ring to win.
I will say Ragnarok will take it.
Thank you.
I really think that having an explosive and heartfelt and the way people are talking about this game after they beat it, even some people that I follow like on YouTube who will say like Elden Ring was like their definitive game of the year for most of the year, and as soon as they finished Ragnarok, that turned the ship for them. They're choosing Ragnarok now. I don't know if it's just recency bias or the case may be, but like I think that has some form of effect. But I don't know, Elden Ring just made such huge waves. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's gonna be really tough. I'm gonna be on the edge of my seat, really seeing like who is gonna be reading that envelope and what's the actual gonna be the crown jewel for this year's Game Awards, because I feel like it's really up in the air. Like I really don't have a definitive answer for you.
And the cool thing is that, like, hey, if your favorite game doesn't win here at the Game Awards, then there's several other major game award type shows next year as well, that hey, it may win at one of those. Like, I thought it was so cool that the BAFTAs this year, Returnal actually won Game of the Year over there. So like,
Hey.
yeah. So like, I wouldn't like I feel like people make it this one specifically, the Jeff Keighley Game Awards, they make it out to be the end all be all when it's not true.
Because it's like the Oscars. People treat it like the Oscars. It's like the one that people go, oh, this is it, and then the people that go, awards don't matter. In the grand scheme of things, y'all, awards don't, for you personally, don't matter, because it doesn't invalidate the game. It doesn't make the game any less better than it already is. You know, it's just treated as like a consensus. I don't know. The critics just agree that that's the best one in the majority, because it's not even all of them. So
Exactly. Which is why I'm happy Xenoblade Chronicles 3 still is
on it. That's insane.
on it.
A
Yeah,
JRPG
yeah.
is on there. And I always love seeing JRPGs on Game of the Year contenders, because we've seen it, but it's not too frequent. It's not too often, because not all JRPGs. There's a lot of shitty JRPGs, but you know, there's this.
I mean, again, this is the second time where like I'm happy like with these nominations, because Final Fantasy 7 Remake made it onto the Game of the Year, and I was like, yes, finally deserved. Like, this is great. It didn't win, obviously, because that year was just incredible for games.
Mm-hmm.
But Xenoblade Chronicles 3 being here against all these juggernauts it's really telling. You know, it's not just another JRPG. It's still niche by all means, but you know, it's making its way. So I'm glad it's on here and that more people can have a chance to play it. So play Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's a great game.
Yeah, because man, Sekiro won that one year, and that was the one. I never thought I would feel this way towards a FromSoft game, where I wouldn't want it to, like, I don't see it as like the game of the year. Whereas that year, when it won it, I didn't see it coming. I was like, oh, that makes sense. You know? I don't know.
Because that combat was
Oh,
sublime, and
delicious.
level design was incredible.
It's so good. So
Yeah.
nice to play it.
Yeah, man, that is the Game Award nominees. We'll obviously have our own dedicated show,
Yes,
picking
sir.
out all of our like individual picks for all the award categories closer to the show, which is on December 8th.
Yes.
So yeah, I look forward to that.
Or do the
Um,
same thing, kind of like with the boss ranking, where we'll have like the pick, and then we'll kind of debate which one we think should be like the DualShock and Sense vote, or
Oh, I'm down for that. What do you think, so?
I mean, we'll have our own like personal game of the years like at the like end of December. Isn't that the when we did it last year? Right when we
yeah,
all
yeah.
had
We
our
I think we
like
did it. I think we did beginning of January because December is like the holidays and stuff like that, and New
right.
Year's and all
Right.
Mm.
So yeah, we'll obviously do that again. But yeah. Uh, so I have to get going.
Rip.
This is thankfully the last Saturday that I have to do this for foreseeable future at least. Next month I don't have to do this, so good on that front. So
Huzzah!
the what
Rejoice.
the one thing I ask is Macho or Walt, did you guys see the interview with Sony Santa Monica, Corey Barlog, Eric Williams, talking about the Ragnarok launch, and then they talked about like what's next for the studio?
I did not.
I sure did
Um,
not.
it's a really in-depth article. I recommend reading it. It was with the LA Times. Basically, there so there was actually one funny excerpt from the interview where Eric Williams said that there was actually like companies like because he's been at Sony Santa Monica forever. He's worked on every single God of War, even the Ready at Dawn ones, and like some consultant position as well. So he's been at that studio for a really really long time, and he actually had like other a specific like big major gaming company reach out to him trying to poach him away from Santa Monica. And the guy like at the or whoever it was at that studio said, "You just want to be known as like the God of War guy forever." And Eric Williams was like, "Yeah, I do." So like he ended up staying at Santa Monica. It's like when you're making games like God of War Ragnarok and God of War 2018, like I don't blame him at all, right? Like as if making games with a 94 Metacritic is a bad thing, right?
Yeah, the series been like that since the very first game. So why wouldn't you want to be associated with one of the most highest rated game series of all time?
Seriously, like what a killer thing to put on your resume. Um, so I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in that article, but the one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was Corey said that the studio is working on that they're stretched across multiple things right now. So obviously we've known since I believe last year was the first time uh that this new project, unannounced project that they're working on was kind of teased. I don't know if you guys remember on Twitter, Santa Monica tweeted out like job openings and they're like, "Hey, we are hiring for a new quote unquote unannounced project. Like come work with us on that project." So that was like the first like official like kind of like announcement that they are working on something besides Ragnarok. Um and then obviously we've heard rumblings that Corey is working on his own game. I remember after God of War 2018 launched, and he was doing some kind of interview, and someone asked like, "What's next for him?" And like, no one remembers this, but he said he has to convince Sony to let him work on something on his own, meaning something separated from the God of War IP. Um, and presumably he's been doing that for the future it's like for a number of years now or whatever. So yeah, I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts. Like, what do you guys think? He said multiple things. So you guys think we're getting another God of War game on top of a new IP, or what do you guys think this is?
Yeah, I think we're getting something original, Corey Barlog original, and I think that's really exciting. But at least when I'm thinking about this kind of conversation, what Santa Monica puts out, I'm hoping we get like those nice AAA, super polished, fully fleshed out video games. But I also will love smaller projects in the vein of stuff like Journey and other stuff they've done because Journey's still one of those top games of all time for me. And if I can get more of really cool, inventive projects like that from them, I'm on board. It's the same thing with like what I said before about Sucker Punch, but them being one of my favorite PlayStation studios because out of all the games in the PlayStation lineup, Sucker Punch is the one that I had the most fun with in most recent years. With Santa Monica, obviously we have the God of War stuff, but then they have different experience like Journey, and I'm just like, yeah, dude, you guys are like, what you're doing. When it comes to visual storytelling or just impactful video games, keep giving me more of that. So I'm hoping that's what they mean by multiple projects, where it's not just the bigger stuff, but also smaller projects that not just passion projects, but stuff like really pushing the medium forward. So
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
And we're not, and they mentioned that they're not doing any more anything related to the established IPs anymore.
Well, he said back in, like, I don't know, like 2018 or 2019, that he's like, what's next for him is that now he has to convince Sony to let him work on his own thing.
Mm.
And then he did I talked about this previously, but he did a Ask Me Anything a few weeks back, I think just ahead of Ragnarok's launch, and someone had asked him something along the lines of like, how long does it take you guys normally to like from concept phase to actually working on a game?
Yeah.
And Corey responded, he was like, it's usually like a year to 2 years, and then he also commented, quote unquote, this thing that I've been working on has been many years already. Meaning, so yeah, he's definitely been working on something. Like, you would have to imagine that he has like a small team, and kind of like a Lost Legacy to Last of Us Part 2 situation, where the small team worked on Lost Legacy, and then once Lost Legacy shipped, that team migrated over to the main team that was working on Last of Us Part 2. I'd imagine a similar thing is going to happen here, where a small little subsect of devs are working on Corey's game, and now that Ragnarok is out the door, the full team is going to migrate over to Corey's game, and then development on that project is going to start ramping up. So I assume it's a new IP, but obviously we don't know until we actually see it.
Right. If they are doing stuff to already established IPs, then we can talk about it more in the future. I'll talk. I'll talk. We'll talk about it more when we've like gone through this game.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do, because Santa Monica has grown a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do a sort of like two director kind of thing, where they do jump back and forth between God of War and Corey's new franchise. And Eric Williams will be now the creative director of the God of War franchise, and he's working on games in that franchise, and then Corey is working on his next big IP or whatever. I think that would be pretty cool.
So now that you've gotten to the section with Atreus, you can kind of see like a game with him could work. A small little Lost Legacy type deal. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Just wanted to bring that up because it is very exciting.
It is.
Yeah. I'm like, just like looking at like the full like portfolio. Like the two games that I'm most excited about that we have no information on, but I'm still like eager to know anything about them.
Mm-hmm.
What is Neil working on, and what is Corey working on? Like, those are the two things that like I'm dying to know.
Right. No, I feel you. My big thing that I already want to just see gameplay of and know about. It's not Santa Monica related, but it's Last of Us Factions. Like I am dying to know what that's gonna look like. So.
Yeah, I was about to say Neil better be working on Factions because I want that.
I really want that, man. I want something different for multiplayer, not just Overwatch. We're dying here with thirsty. I'm thirsty, bro. I need some multiplayer.
So that multiplayer is so great for the first game. So give me that, man. I want that. I want that badly.
He did that Corey tease in the Summer Games Fest, because I don't know if you guys remember at the PlayStation Showcase 2021 when Sid Schumann was like, so Corey, you've been really quiet here. Can you tell us maybe what you're working on? And Corey is like, oh, well, you would just love to know that, wouldn't you? Actually working on a bunch of things here, but I can't, say anything right now. And Neil did a similar thing at Summer Games Fest this year. Keeley asked him, so Neil, you're still directing games, right? and Neil's still directing games, but it's still like too early for me to talk about like what I'm working on next. So, um, yeah. So and that obviously because like if he was directing Factions, he would have been like, oh yeah, I'm working on Factions, right? So obviously
Yeah.
he's not. So
And we
that's
know,
super exciting.
and we know how part 2 ended. So there's potential there, or maybe something completely different. So either way they go, I'm just happy that these two that we have such phenomenal people working with Sony to make great games.
That's specifically I wrote an article about this when I was still with Blognet, but close like after like I don't know, maybe a few months after part 2 shipped, but Neil was like, we have the story for Last of Us Part 3 written out, but that game is currently not in development.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's why again, like I feel super strongly that both of these guys are working on new IPs. But we'll see. We'll see.
Great day to be a PlayStation fan.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, guys, I gotta go. Have fun with the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll catch you guys.
We don't need each other.
Later. Get to like, comment, subscribe on this podcast, man. We greatly appreciate that. And catch you guys next week.
Yeah, it was great having you on. So thanks for joining the panel, man.
Thank you so much.
talking to me like I'm a goddamn guest.
Thank you for taking the time for this collab.
Thank you for stopping by. You know.
Yeah, appreciate you. We'll be in touch.
I'll hold the door open for you. Okay.
Hey, don't forget your phone. Here you go.
Man, y'all can go to hop off a cliff, man.
Yeah.
Good thing I got wings, bitch.
Oh no. You think I'm Kratos from God of War 2? Jumping off a cliff like that? No, man. What a. This has been a fun podcast. Like this episode, we've had some fun conversations so far. What are the topics that we have online? I think that's pretty much the big stuff, right?
I mean, yeah, that was. We kind of just went through everything. So thankfully, he was here so to get through the stuff that he wanted to do. But lastly, our topic for the end of this podcast here, Walt, is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet reviews.
Ay.
So it's funny. I messaged you Thursday, I think it was.
Yep.
Asking if you're gonna play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet day one, because I know how you are with Nintendo and Pokemon in general.
Thank you.
So I was like, he has to be playing it. So that means I won't mind taking time aside to play it, and having some thoughts on this game. See where we land on.
Yeah.
You messaged me back saying, I ain't playing shit but God of War Ragnarok right now.
Yep.
and that told me everything I needed to know. I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to keep playing Ragnarok.
Listen, man, typically, I am day one on a Pokemon game. Day one.
Right.
And so last Pokemon, Sword and Shield was a present for Christmas. Someone gifted it to me. So I didn't buy it day one, right? Not that I wasn't, but I just got it as a gift. I didn't seek it as a day one, I believe. Or that might have been Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun. This year, I was not particularly hyped for the new Pokemon because although I am a Pokemon fan, I am a Pokemon lover, not a fan per se. So I'm not like shiny hunting hardcore. I'm not over here, building my living decks. And mostly what I do is fill up the Pokedex. I love the music. I love the fights. I like the personalities in it because all the trainers are super different. All the gym leaders and the Elite Four and all that good stuff. This year, I had a feeling, first of all, because I wasn't particularly sold on the gimmicks. So for YN...
Hold it down for a little bit. I got to step away for a quick second. So
yeah, for sure. For sure.
I'll be back in a sec.
So for YN, what was the one? YNX, I was excited for the Mega Evolutions. I like the gimmick in that one. I like the setting. I like the world. I liked what I was looking at, so I was convinced at day one. Alola, that's been not my favorite. Aside from Soul Silver, that's one of my favorite entries. That specific generation, all of it. Sword and Shield, it was good, but it wasn't great. It was kind of bare bones, and the settings and the environment. I liked that it didn't feel as serious as other games where it had the Team Rocket. And this one, it felt more goofy. It felt more lighthearted. It felt nice, a change of pace. With Violet and Scarlet, the diamond Pokemon or whatever it's called, that they have like the diamond shaped and the open world, that was fine. So what I think changed this year is that I had my fill of Pokemon with Legends Arceus. And Scarlet and Violet didn't really, it didn't make me as enthusiastic as previous entries. To that point, the game came out, and the reception has been more divided or more mixed than I thought it would be. And for good reason. The performance, the reception has been quite mixed, particularly because you have three sets of people. You have the I'm a Pokemon fan, I don't care, it's Pokemon. You have the this is unacceptable, it's Nintendo. Why is it running like this? You have the oh, it's not that bad. Plus, the Switch is kind of outdated and whatever. And you have very mixed opinions on this game. There's more positive than negative in terms of reception. But I do believe the Switch is not the problem. It's Game Freak.
Okay.
The way that they've, quote unquote, innovated, it's not anything. It's not why people buy these games. People don't buy the games because, oh, wow, the diamond Pokemon or whatever. No, they buy it because there's co-op. They promise co-op. They buy it because shiny hunting. They buy it because it's another Pokemon game. It's like Call of Duty. It's just another Pokemon game, and they just buy it on a yearly basis. But the performance has been god abysmal. The environments have not been as developed as I would have expected from an entry at this time of Game Freak's history and Nintendo history. If you look at games like, oh yeah, and I'm bringing it, Breath of the Wild. You bring games like Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade, for God's sake. These are games that are quite developed, and performance is fairly great for being on the Switch, for what the Switch is capable of. Odyssey and Zelda in particular, those run crispy, buttery smooth, same as Xenoblade. Doom Eternal.
It's not crazy good, but
it's not a PlayStation, but by the standards of the Switch, no. But here's the thing: you play Mario Odyssey, that's a 60 FPS game.
Yeah.
Like, what's the excuse? There is none. It's Game Freak. Game Freak needs to step it up. Look at Legends Arceus, for God's sake. That game by no means had the performance, of a Mario Odyssey, but it certainly was more thought out than whatever this is. I think.
So I'll push back a little bit that I don't think it's Game Freak. I think it's just Nintendo in general. That they didn't give them enough time to polish this game to what it really, really can be and really go with the bare minimum. Like the graphics in the game are absolutely embarrassing for this game. Like, it looks good in some parts. Like, the character models look pretty good, but like environments and textures and all that stuff, like, how is it not up to level as Xenoblade 3 is when that game is much bigger? And I really think it's because not of technical immaturity from Game Freak. I think it's really because of time, and that's really falls on Nintendo on, keeping with the status quo of yearly Pokemon releases when you only have one developer doing it. And that's why I don't understand why Nintendo hasn't reached out for extra resources, not because they don't have the money or the resources, because they definitely do. You know they do. It's freaking Nintendo.
But
So
how
why
does
aren't they?
Game Freak,
Why
one of their headliners, not have the enough like
doesn't have enough resources or
the
yeah, like
no? But that's
and
the
that's
thing. I think they have the resources. I think they have the time. It's where their energy is spent. Because why did, although different console, but how is it that Moon and Sun feel more lush and more developed than Sword and Shield? How is
yeah.
that?
Sun and Moon is great too. I love that.
Sun and Moon is my second favorite in terms of like entry, aside from Soul Silver. How is it that those games feel more thought out and developed, and this one doesn't? When last year we had a port, or rather a remake, and it wasn't the same team, I believe. Like, how is it that we didn't really have a new entry? We just had a remake of another one. Not just that does take time as well, but you're not reinventing the wheel. You're not making a different game. Legends Arceus was that reinventing, and it kind of did really well. Why is it that Scarlet and Violet, the open environments, it's the fact that you're spreading yourself so largely, and you come up short because there's so much environment, but there's not enough in the environment. For instance, when you go into the open world, a few rocks, a few trees, and so much room in between. Why is that? For co-op, you cannot build a single player experience around a multiplayer option. You have to build a multiplayer option around the single player experience. That's why Far Cry 3, the co-op missions worked, because you had the single player foundation and you built a co-op around it. That's why Dying Light works. That's why, why all these co-op, when it's done well, it works, because it's what you're building it around, I think. But it feels like
Yeah.
this game just, it didn't allocate its resources where it needed to allocate it in, because it just feels, unfortunately, well, from what I've seen, I haven't played the game, it just looks like a bigger Sword and Shield with multiplayer. And
Yeah,
after
I'm not sure.
Legends,
I'm
I'm
excited
kind
to play
of,
it. But
yeah, no, I'm looking forward to playing it, but my man, I don't think I'm gonna, I don't feel good with paying $60 for a game that's this poorly optimized.
that's fair.
I don't, and I'm gonna play Callisto in the next few weeks, and that's all I'm gonna be playing for December probably. So like, I don't know, man. If I'm gonna look at footage and I'm gonna look at the trainers, the battles, because at the end of the day, what I look for is filling up the Pokedex, new Pokemon, great music, great fights, and a nice hierarchy of power. So give me those gym leaders, give me those Elite Four, and give me the champion. Make it feel epic. That's what I go for Pokemon, because I feel like the little kid in me is having fun, going up against the challenge of increasingly difficult foes. That's what I like in Pokemon as well. You get to that Elite Four and you hear that music kick in. We're like, yeah, I've come far, and I'm almost there. I'm almost there. And then you die, and you gotta start from the first Elite Four. I don't know. That's for me the Pokemon experience. I don't think it's broken. I think that the formula is pretty good. But why gimmicks? Why do we have to bring in gimmicks? That's not why people buy Pokemon. You know?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
think so.
I can't really speak on that because again, I haven't played again. I haven't really been following what Sword or not what Scarlet and Violet have been doing or promoting. The biggest thing I know is that it's more of what Arceus touched on and built on.
Mm-hmm.
It has co-op and it has locations I'm actually interested in.
Yeah.
So I haven't been this excited for a Pokemon game since Sun and Moon, and that's mainly because of location, like the different regional Pokemon. I thought was a really cool idea. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited to dive into Scarlet and Violet. Like, I'm really pumped for it. Um, but yeah, the hearing the technical issues, like it feels like it's like not, it's like duh, no surprise. But it's also disappointing at the same time because you know that this series can do better in that sense, and it's for one, it deserves better than what Nintendo kind of is forcing Game Freak to do here, year in year out. Like obviously they needed more time to really build this thing out and to make it something really special, and you can tell from what people are reviewing or saying in reviews, and even Pokemon fans that yeah, there's a great this is like one of like the best Pokemon games in years,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just the technical limitations, not just from the Switch, but
No,
just from what
but
was
look at
given to Game
Monolith.
Freak.
Look at
Yeah, yeah,
look at
exactly.
Xenoblade. It's such an ambitious game, and it does well on the Switch.
Yeah, which is why it's so surprising. And the thing is, like, when I was hearing the news about all this stuff too, I was just like, yeah, okay, that's par for the course. It's like it's Nintendo, and it's it's a Pokemon game. We saw what Arceus has been doing and how kind of underwhelming those graphics were, and like characters having a mop for hair and all this shit. So like for me, I was like, ah, whatever. It's expected. Um, but then I saw right before the podcast. Well, I went to the Sammy Mind room, and she was playing Pokemon Violet. I was looking at her screen, her riding one of the Pokemon, and I was baffled at the frame pacing in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like absolutely baffled. I was like, wow, it's actually that bad.
It's horrible.
Or like
It's
when you're actually
unacceptable.
yeah, when you're exploring the world and how choppy it is, and not even to mention the pop in. Like the pop in's like usually that's like whatever. I saw pop in Elden Ring. I was like, oh okay, that's whatever. It's a little immersion breaking, but nothing crazy. This is like this is absolutely hampering the experience with the amount of pop in and the texture loaded. Like it's horrible. I couldn't believe it that like this game actually shipped out. And I don't to be honest, I don't really care like for paying like if I paid full price for it because either way I'm gonna get my enjoyment out of it. And so is Sammy because she's a huge Pokemon fan and she loves that. She loves playing them and filling out the Pokédex and hunting for shinies and stuff. Like she is a full on Pokemon player. For me,
But
I'm just I'm gonna get my enjoyment out of it. I'm just mostly there for the environment and for the different kind of Pokemon and the starters are really cool. So like and plus I wanted to shake up from the Pokemon formula anyway. And Sun and Moon, I left on a really high note. I love that game, and no other Pokemon game really enticed me. I did play Sword and Shield, but even then that was kind of forgettable for me.
yeah,
Um,
me too.
but Scarlet and Violet is one of the ones I was really excited for. So it kind of sucks to see that. Yeah, it's a great game, but you're gonna have a really hard time enjoying everything that it has to offer because of the fact that it wasn't and had enough time in development of it.
And then
So
I'm gonna be
that's
you for a
disappointing.
moment. That you are sometimes talking about performance. I'm gonna be you in this case of imagine me going from God of War Ragnarok onto into Pokemon. I
Yeah,
know it's a
she
different game.
Sammy said the exact same thing, dude. She was like, if you go from God of War to this game, you're gonna be turned off. I was
Yeah,
like,
and that's
interesting.
the thing. With her, she only plays a handful of games. She's not overwhelmed with the backlog that we have and the performance snobs that we are. And I'll admit it, I've grown accustomed to performance, not 60 FPS, very different. I've grown accustomed to a game being optimized, being finished by God, for God's sake. Like when Pokemon is starting to dwindle this way, there next we have to do better next year or the next. I hope there's a patch or an update for this game to better optimize it because I really want to play it. I'm pumped for Pokemon, but I don't want this to hinder my experience and then having to be a chore of me moving around and not being at because in Legends Arceus I could just get on my Pokemon and ride along. I could fly, go here, go there, catch like 10 Pokemon in a row, and everything would feel seamless. But now I'm struggling to catch a Psyduck. I saw the clip of a person catching a Psyduck, and the bridge popped in, the textures were popping in. It was like it was rendering in real time. Like
Yeah,
my
I thought it was kind of overblown because social media has it has this innate ability to make things bigger than what they really are, and it still does, especially for Twitter.
for sure.
But I didn't think it would actually bleed into like my actual personal experience because I've seen people or say before how like Horizon Forbidden West kept crashing on them or has so much
And
bugs and
Elden
glitches on
Ring,
them.
Elden Ring had issues too.
Oh yeah, Elden Ring had issues too, but Horizon Forbidden West, like I maybe had like one or two times I had to restart the game, and that's because of like Aloy getting stuck or something like that, but nothing crazy. I didn't really see anything too crazy about the game. Same thing with Elden Ring. I had some stutter problems, and I even said before, I think there's like some input lag a little bit with it when I was playing it, but nothing crazy, right? Nothing for me to drop the game. I looked at what I saw with Sammy playing. I was like, dude, I don't want to play that right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with waiting as I finish God of War Ragnarok and going back to even Star Ocean 6, which again I stopped playing because of God of War. That I want to go back to, and like he's mentioned before, Callisto Protocol is coming out soon. I'm gonna play that as well. So like I'm okay with just waiting for playing Scarlet because of all the issues that I'm seeing and that I saw personally.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of crazy to me. Like it, I really feel like Nintendo should. I told Sammy this too, that I don't understand why Nintendo doesn't do what Activision does with Call of Duty, where they have three different developers rotating yearly annual releases or annual releases for Call of Duty, and just having each game has at least a 2 to 3 year dev cycle. Why can't they just do that for Pokemon? Especially for the Nintendo Switch, where it's not, nobody's asking for crazy graphical demands. The thing has a power of 360 and PS3, so you can get away with like not visually demanding games on the console. So why not just do that? I just don't understand it. They have the resources, they have the time. Why can't they just do that and lift off some of the weight off of Game Freak?
It's
I don't
and
get it.
I bring these people back out because they actually work with Nintendo pretty high up with them, and now they're not, and they're actually talking about it. King Krista, there's an episode
Yeah,
where they mention Nintendo. Although every company is this way, of course, profit, but Nintendo is literally of the mind of it. If it doesn't make money, why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that's the thing, it's
yeah. I remember
broken.
her. So to kind of cut you off there, I remember her telling the story of wanting to create like what was it, like an Instagram page or like something to
Like interact
focus.
more with the community as well.
Yeah, to interact with the community, but also just have like a basically there's this like pocket market for girl gamers, especially when it comes to Nintendo. And she was pitching that to the executives, and they're like, "Why we want to do this?"
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and just have a pretty girl playing a game or whatever, and just do that. She's like, "No, like there's an actual market for this, and this can take off."
But
And
let's say it doesn't
she was
take
fighting with
off,
them on that. I
and
was just
it's
like, "Geez, man."
let's say it doesn't take off, and it simply cultivates a better relationship with these players and with these people. You're winning more loyalty, but that doesn't bring in money up front. That doesn't give you the increase in revenue that you want to see immediately. So why do it then? You know, and that's what separates Nintendo from Microsoft from Sony. Microsoft, while they make money, they try to cultivate themselves within the community and they interact. And you see PC Game Pass, the Twitter handle, talking and being snarky and making comments and being fun. And, they try to interact with the community. But Nintendo, as family friendly as they are, they don't, it feels so cut and dry. It's just, we're a company, we make a product, you play it, you pay for it, that's it. That's the basic formula that you need for a company. If you have a product, it's good, people buy it. You make the same product again with a bit better. But for Nintendo, it's like a cult following. It's like they're literally a cult. It's fine. It's no, it's still fun, bro. Don't give me that. Like, I think we're again. Give me that same energy elsewhere. Don't just do it here. Give me that same energy in other places. Because then if I go and tell you, I really like this PlayStation game, it's just another cinematic experience. Shut the hell up. Like, let's keep the same energy everywhere then. Like, everything is subjective. Like, every company is so different. And in this case, Nintendo, it seems like the communication between them and the devs, Game Freak being one of the longest standing with them. Like, they have headliners. Pokemon is synonymous with Nintendo. Why is it taking this kind of care with them? Why are they not putting in more effort in it? We're not Game Freak. The communication between them, and like you say, maybe it was more time that they needed, or more resources.
Yeah, I mean, I think so because, like, again, the consensus around Scarlet and Violet that it's a great game, but it's just horrible to play with because of all the issues.
It's horrible to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
You
Again,
can't
which
have
again,
that.
which is surprising, which is really surprising. I expected more, but nonetheless, I think either way, I'm still excited to play it, and they already got my money for that, and I'm sure Sammy's having a great time too. I even asked her, I was like, "You having fun?" She's like, "Yeah, it's great. It's just, yeah, it's just it's just rough to play sometimes."
And
Because
that's
of
why
the
we're
frame
not
rate and
getting
stuff
more
like that.
optimized games, unfortunately. And not to like throw shade at you, but that is why these games are not going to improve
Hey
because
man,
they're still
to
going to
be
have our
honest,
money.
I don't even know if that really matters
Yeah,
on consumer purchases or not because of the fact that
the
Nintendo's just
demographic
in
is
their own
kids.
bubble. Well, I don't even think that money, the fact that money talks is really going to be a factor in this argument or this conversation.
No,
Right? Because
exactly. That's what I mean.
because
Because money
well,
talks, the quality is not going to
no,
improve.
not even that, but just because Nintendo likes to live in their own bubble, and they've been like that for forever.
Right.
And that's why I think they're not going to change, regardless if money talked or not. They're just so stubborn.
I
And so
do
that's why I don't
think that
think it's gonna change.
Nintendo
Like,
they
look how long it took for Pokemon to actually turn into what it is.
right.
It took fucking years, dude. After everybody finally was complaining that the series is not changing after Sword and Shield and they want something different, right? It took so long for them to do that. And now we're finally seeing the change. But now they're kind of being crushed by their own decisions because Game Freak now has to learn how to make open world games.
But here's the thing.
So,
Well, I do think Nintendo will change. It's not going to be in our lifetime.
probably not.
And I'm not even exaggerating because Japan takes a million years to get with the times. They still use fax machines.
Do they? That's
They do.
surprising.
And a lot of Japanese run companies over there and like corporates, they still rely and have fax machines.
That's crazy.
And this is based on podcasts from people that live there and they talk about their experiences. And it's like, yeah, no, they still have fax machines. They still, you know how here in the West, there's one of the differences. In the West, we have like the customer is always right.
Mm-hmm.
They have a phrase that's roughly translates to the customer is God. So essentially, you cannot inconvenience the customer in any way, shape, or form. So like in a lot of ways, they still live in their not just Nintendo. Japan lives in their own bubble. Like, and if the work culture there doesn't change, Nintendo's not going to change. So expect the same for the foreseeable future. And here's the thing, Macho. You know why this is the case? You know why it's not going to change also? And you know why people are not going to talk with their money? Can you guess why?
No, what? No, why?
Because no one else makes Pokemon games, man. No one else makes the games that Nintendo makes. I'm going to eventually buy Violet. 60 or not. I'm going to buy it. And that's just because no one else makes games fun as Nintendo. Or Game Freak. Like, they don't... Unfortunately, they don't have a particular competitor in that regard. They're in their own league. In their own league in the sense that they are the only ones that make games that at their core are fun. That's like Reggie said. If it's not fun, why bother? You know? Like we have companies that focus more on, hyper-realism and pushing the boundaries of tech. Nintendo ain't doing that. They haven't done VR. So like they're not
No,
with
they
the
try to
times.
sell you cardboard boxes, remember?
Oh, true, yeah, Labo, right, true. So I'm not throwing shade at Nintendo. It's a low fruit. It's low hanging fruit because we know just how Nintendo does the Nintendoing.
I mean, I'll throw shade at Nintendo, same way I'll throw shade at PlayStation, man. Like, do fucking better.
Yeah, do
Truly.
it, but they're not doing it. Do better for sure, but let's be honest, Macho. And this is like the true out in a lot of controversy between this sentiment, but if we don't buy this game, it's not gonna do shit.
Yeah, that's why, like, that's what I was saying before, that my purchase it doesn't really matter in the long run.
But then it's the same mentality of me not voting doesn't change anything. You know, it's the mentality of if that's replicated, you know, but the reality of the matter is, you know, me using paper straws is not going to change anything. Me not buying Call of Duty. I haven't bought Call of Duty in the last 5 years. They're still making buku bucks, so why does that matter, you know?
No,
It-
it's more about moral sense of self and kind of all that stuff and what's important to you and all that. But you know, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is video games, and
yeah.
the entire point of video games is to entertain yourself. So
Yep. Escapism.
yeah, at the end of the day, it's really, you know, how do you want to spend your days and your life, you know?
Yeah.
So
So if you want to, here's the thing: you want to buy Pokemon, by all means. I'm not throwing shade at anyone. I'm just stating the facts of Nintendo's in a position that, you know, they're the only ones doing what they do.
yeah,
So
it's just a matter about your own convictions. So if you want to play Pokemon or if you want to teach Nintendo a lesson, then you
yeah,
know, not-
teach
not
them.
spend-
Raise
not
your
spend not
raise
spend
your fist at
wallet.
them.
Yeah, not you know, spend your money. Then that's on you. You know.
Yeah. Make sure to scream to the skies and raise your fist. Damn you!
Yeah, I'm just of the mind of like tomorrow's never promise, so I'm gonna expend my days how I wish.
Yeah.
So that comes with buying games too and all that kind of stuff. And so it's I mean we're getting a little too deep on this but
Yeah, all in all, if you don't like it, don't buy it. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. Because I know I'm not passionate about the conversation. I'm like, you know, they need to do better and whatever. And it is unacceptable. I'm just sad that it is the way it is. Because I'm super pumped for Violet, Scarlet and Violet. But I'm gonna get Violet because that's technological and I like technological. It looks really cool. Which one are you getting, Scarlet or Violet?
I got the double pack.
Oh, see, man, see, people, this is the 2-for-1. This is the so you're not one problem, you're two problems in one. Okay.
Listen, my wife loves Pokemon. Either way, I was going to get both of them because when I got what was it, Pearl and Shiny Diamond or whatever it was, she ended up getting I think Pearl, and I bought her Diamond, so she can have both games.
Oh,
So either way, I was gonna get Scarlet regardless. She was gonna get Violet, so I was like, we'll just buy the double pack.
oh, so you're playing Scarlet?
Yeah, Scarlet's gonna be my go-to. I think the legendary looks cooler. I like the Scarlet exclusive stuff for Pokemon that are in there. Yeah, a couple other stuff, but I'm mostly looking forward to co-op. Just playing
Oh
that with her
wait,
and a couple of my friends.
Scarlet has the hot professor.
Oh yep. They have they have the girl professor. Yep.
I'm getting Scarlet, I guess.
Oh jeez. So you can look at her in 480p. That's nice.
Yes, sir. Or those pixels, appreciate them. Hey, if Tomb Raider was what she was in the past, I can do with this.
Oh jeez.
Oh man.
But I think that's it, man.
Yeah.
Not really much to say else in Scarlet and Violet other than the fact that it's kind of a travesty the way it's been rated, despite people saying it's a great Pokemon game.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the fact that Game Freak needs more time, Nintendo are scumbags, and Pokemon deserves better. But we'll see what comes of it. Nonetheless, we never see a Pokemon game nominated for Game of the Year or anything like that. I wonder if Scarlet Violet. I was wondering if Scarlet Violet would change the tide since it is like a big step forward for the franchise and design and stuff like that. But with its technical problems, the way it released, I really doubt it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, other than that, I think that's the podcast, man. Unless you had anything else you want to bring up, I know we didn't touch too much on God of War Ragnarok because Soul being here, but
I mean, even you being here, because I want to talk so much about it, but I beat the game, so I can't.
Yeah, like, to end on a positive note, right? Overall, your thoughts on God of War Ragnarok, because I want to know like your genuine, general thoughts now that you finally beat the game.
God of War Ragnarok is, like my tweet said, is a masterpiece. Truly the only gripe I had with it, and it wasn't even a gripe, it was just what people pointed out. It was the backseating with the puzzles, but I really didn't mind it. this game was truly, for me, it was a 10, it's a 10 out of 10. And visually, the story, the wrap up, they stuck the landing so damn well. And oh man, it's I want to appreciate, and we'll talk about it more, just the specific aspects of it from the story and whatnot. But I think that it does so well with redeeming like the character of Kratos, like they did in 2018, how they made such a one note character, one of the more nuanced characters of video game history. And I think Kratos truly has gone down as one of the greatest video fiction characters in general ever. With it, man, there's so much great stuff to this game. Gameplay, the visuals, the story, of the music, the accessibility. Because I did like some exploring of that, and there's so many options for that. I don't know, man. I can't wait to talk about it more with y'all, because I truly think that this story, it, for me, it's a perfect story. Like it just it hit on the right notes fully. Nothing felt out of place, and everything felt either earned or deserved in terms of the consequences of everyone's actions in this game. Right. And how everything went down. So that ending, man. Wow. What a
Yeah, I mean, from what I've been playing so far, I'm about 35 hours in. I told you where I was before we started the podcast, so like how far I am. And I haven't been this immersed, ingrained with like a narrative and just the game itself and the gameplay since Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I know that wasn't so long ago, but the thing is, when it comes, first of all, my expectation for Square Enix games was like at an all-time low because of 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3. So I didn't really think they would deliver with 7 Remake. So the fact that it did was a complete surprise. But the fact that not only did it deliver, but it surpassed my expectations when it came to music and cutscenes and voice acting and story pacing and level design, I was absolutely blown away. And everything that the characters would be saying in 7 Remake, I was just so enveloped in the moment, and they had me at every word and every sentence and every breath. God War Ragnarok is doing the exact same thing. And it's not, and I could see some people having maybe a gripe with like slower moments or certain set pieces, like especially with Atreus, right, Walt? I can imagine. I can definitely see a couple people saying one particular set piece with Atreus. They're like, "Oh, it's slow, it's meandering, what it can be." I loved every second of it, and I would do it again. You know, it's not like with Mary Jane and Miles Morales and Spider-Man. I was like, all right, come on, I want to skip through this. Like, there's a lot of great character moments in this game that have me on the edge of my seat every time. I'm either on the verge of having some really great feels or very exciting moments. Like, oh my God, man! Like, just thinking about like, there's so many great moments in this game. I'm just like, I can't wait to re-explore that and see in different contexts after watching the ending and getting into that. It's just it's so good. It's so good.
I mean, maybe you'll encounter it or not. There is a line that's one of those lines when you're in the overworld and Mimir and you are talking. Can I bring it up? I don't know if it's not about the main story. It's just a dialogue that he has with Kratos.
With what? Are you talking about something early in the game?
It's throughout the overworld. It's just something that they talk about. I don't know when they're supposed to talk about it. But they just, when you're in the overworld, you're on your sled and they just bring up topics.
Yeah.
And like some
small...
I mean,
that's the whole game, but what are you referencing particularly?
It's just, it doesn't, they talk about it. It's in Alfheim. So when you're in the desert, there's a back and forth that they make in regards to a previous entry of Sony.
Previous entry of Sony.
Yeah, a Sony.
I mean,
Can I like tell you the quote?
sure, yeah.
Because I want to bring it up, just how incredible this game is and how it handles it. Listen to the quote. Okay, Mimir says, "But I'd also heard that you once fought in a tournament." I
Oh
fought.
wait, is that thing I saw from like I saw a couple of articles I'll reference Battle Royale or something like that.
Kratos says, "I fought in many contests." Mimir says, "But this particular one, I heard that you battle with beasts, scoundrels, princesses, and the undead." The undead. Wait, the next one, automatons, and history's greatest musician. That's not true, is it? And Kratos says, "I would not speak of this." They made PlayStation All-Stars canon.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Macho, the way that they handle spin-offs in dialogue, I am dumbfounded. I am flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I am impactation.
Well, they did that so far the entire game, man.
The entire game.
I'm just again at loss for words when you have Kratos exploring Vanaheim or Alfheim, and they have this dialogue where we're talking about Kratos' past, and I'm like, oh wow, we're actually touching on previous entries like this, like so openly.
And you know,
and there's this kinetic energy that's talking about. You're just like, oh man, this is intense, and like the fact that it's done so tastefully, it's great.
and you know the poems too. You know what the poems refer to, right?
Oh yeah, Cavasier's poems. Yep. I did catch the one for Horizon Forbidden West.
That's insane.
Yeah, Last of Us Part 2.
Macho!
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Help! I need help.
They did one with Soul's favorite game of all time, Days Gone.
I'm looking for that one because I want to read it real quick. Just the Days Gone one. Where is it?
Yeah, I did see a couple of those when I was picking them up. So I thought that was really cool.
Let me look at the.
What
Here it is. This is the Days one. Well, listen, horses of steel, in oil and leather, brothers who fight and fall together. They rise from beneath. A new day dawns. The future has teeth, and yesterday's gone. Come on,
Yeah,
bro. Why does Ragnarok? You know what I'm gonna tell people?
the writers are so talented.
God of War Ragnarok is the PlayStation game. You know how 2018 was game of the generation? This is the game of a century. This is a game. This is PlayStation. This, for me, God of War Ragnarok does. You know how Astrobot was like making homages to previous games with like little cameos and whatever?
Yeah.
This takes it to a whole different level. Like,
yes,
man.
that's what I was talking before. How like Ragnarok feels like it's pushing the industry forward, not really specifically like, you know, it doesn't do anything super new that we've seen before. But again, like Elden Ring, it doesn't do anything super new or super original. But it's the best of what it does in this year in particular. So that's why like it's so interesting to see these two kind of juggernauts at the helm here. But with Ragnarok, man, it's like the writing is so strong. It's incredible. Like it absolutely blows my mind like the way what they're able to do with a couple of stuff and how well executed it is. And again, that's all a testament to Christopher Judge and Sonny, right? And their chemistry on screen and
dude,
Christopher
and
Judge's chemistry with other characters.
and
It's
Daniela.
immaculate. Yeah.
Like, and
good.
what's Mimir's? Who does Mimir?
I don't know actually. I don't remember his name, but
Dude, but
he's
Daniela,
incredible too.
freaking, it's it, man. God, Danielle and everyone and Jack Harrington and freaking Richard Schiff, is it? Odin?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my Ryan Hurst as Kratos and as
Yeah,
Thor rather.
it's a behemoth of a game, man. Which is
God.
again it feels sometimes it feels a little like it's aggravating and frustrating. One of the reasons why I love Twitter too, where it's just like it feels like everybody was just dunking on a Sony game or PlayStation game, despite like the amount of effort and passion thrown into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because it has the super glossy graphics and has super AAA production design and even some mechanics like some gameplay design and mechanics. Um, all that seems to be getting more of the highlight than like the actual care and passion put into like the smaller things that we touched on earlier in the podcast and even now where like yeah there's definitely something here like there's quality and there's something that worth playing and it's amazing and it's fun and it can have all these like really cool bells and whistles to it that's okay. It doesn't have to be super unique or original, it just has to be the best of the best, and that's why we kind of give it so much attention, you know.
Yep.
On
So,
top of like all the other indie games that we play too, and all the other projects that get announced and all that kind of stuff. Like everybody has like their time in the limelight, and God of War Ragnarok absolutely deserves its own because of what it does. It's pushing the industry forward, and I'm sticking by that. So,
100%.
but yeah, I think that's really it for the podcast, man.
Yeah, man.
We could just end off with Walt. What do you got going on this weekend?
On that platinum grind, my boy. I'm going
Yeah.
for that God of War Platinum, and if I'm being honest, I might run through that story once more later on, maybe before the year's gone. But once I got that Platinum, I'm probably gonna hop on. I have it until Callisto comes out. I have it to play Deadly Premonition at some point. But we'll see. Honestly, you know what I because I did promise this in one of the podcasts. Once I finish my platinum for God of War, I might I see some things down in the horizon, you know?
As you should, as you should, to finally have a stake in with our Game of the Year
Yep.
talks. Because, but by the time if you end up finishing Horizon, by the time we actually end up doing the podcast where we're choosing our nominations, we would have played most of the games on the list. So
Yep.
definitely
And
get to that.
and I plan on putting some time on Plague Tale Innocence because I want to beat that so I can play Requiem. Now,
Yeah, soundtrack alone makes me want to play the games, but I
yeah,
just know I'll be
same.
so skeeved out by the rats. Like it would, oh, no, I
Oh,
wouldn't do it.
true. Yeah, maybe it has an option to turn them off, and you're just running from the happening, or just air.
I wish there was a toggle where like, instead of just rats, it's just teddy bears chasing me.
That would be hilarious. That would be amazing, though.
I'll I would just take that.
That
Let
would
me
be
get a
amazing.
game like that where just teddy bears running after me instead of just rats. Then I'll finally play the game.
Dude. Yeah, but I want to be able to play most Game of the Years this before the year is done. Except only one that's gonna take me a while to get through is Xenoblade because that's a juggernaut. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to do a lot of things in it. But yeah, what about you? What do you have going on?
Absolutely, God of War Ragnarok. I have a family outing today, so it's a family game night,
Oh,
and not
nice.
video games, more like board games.
Yeah.
With my wife's family, so that'll be super fun. All of them are really competitive, so I'm interested to see how that goes. I'm just gonna stay quiet and let them fight, but
Oh man.
it's gonna be super fun with that. And then mostly God of War Ragnarok, and my week entirely has been Ragnarok and diving into more Lord of the Rings stuff. Still on this high for Middle Earth and all the stories that are involved in there. So I've been watching more lore videos. I've been reading The Hobbit too, and really enjoying that book and rereading it. It's such a classic, and just reading it makes me really excited for the day to have a kid and to have that as their bedtime story, and all the adventures with Bilbo and the dwarves and stuff like that, and Gandalf. It's such a great world to live in.
Hell yeah.
It's funny. I was talking to my stepfather about it too. He's watching Rings of Power, and he's like, "Yeah, it's really slow in the beginning." I'm like, "Yeah, it's slow, but it has an incredible payoff, kind of like the books." Lord of the Rings has always been like a series of books, and just the entire lore itself has always been a slow burn, where you really have to get yourself invested into the world and the characters to really appreciate what's there. And people that kind of just want a quick read or something really exciting are not really going to get that. It's really about the slow burn. It's really about the journey, not about the destination. So,
100%.
and that goes with Rings of Power. That goes with the actual Lord of the Rings books. That goes with the movies. Like, you really just got to be in it to win it. So, but yeah, but I'm gonna dive more into that and hopefully finish off The Hobbit and then start the trilogy of books so that I can finally read the Silmarillion and the what was it, the Unfinished Tales and a couple other like really great First Age Little Earth stories. But other than that, yeah, mostly. And then once I finish Ragnarok, I'll talk to you and we'll see what we can link up in a party chat or something and talk about how crazy it was or whatever case may be. I'm excited. See the
Absolutely.
resolution.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, other than that, that's it. That's all I got, man. So thank you guys for watching the podcast. Remember to like and subscribe. Uh, and then we'll be back next week for whatever happens. I'm not really sure what else we're gonna talk about next week. I guess we'll find out, as it comes out. But actually, that one thing is happening next week, and that's a CDPR live stream for Next Gen Witcher.
Oh.
So that could be a fun discussion to have on talking about our Witcher tales and stuff like that. So yeah, tune in next week. Tune into DualShock Sense podcast every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Excuse me, Eastern Standard Time. Soul is playing God of War Ragnarok on live stream. I'm not sure what his schedule is. He's pretty sporadic when it comes to it. So just stay tuned to the channel. Hit that bell icon to get notification when he goes live and see his live reaction to everything as he's playing. Part 1 and 2, I think he has a third part up right now. So check into that. But other than that, we'll see you guys later. See you guys next week.